Disclaimer, we'd like to note before the start of this interview that the opinions about to be expressed by the guest on tonight's Gettin Salty Experience podcast are that of the guest and do not directly or necessarily reflect the views of the host of the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Hello, roofies out there. Where is he? By Nonas.
My mother-in-law.
He's by Nonas. We got to give a shout out. Hello to the Mariana Half Show.
Yeah, we can tell. What do you show him that chair, Lou? Let him see that chair.
There's Copper de Monte all over the place.
Oh shit!
Forget about it. The baby Jesus. Every room you go through, you got to give one of those.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. What you have for dinner?
I already had my. You know what I had? I had pasta.
Oh, yeah, Maragot. What you have?
Homemade pasta and sausage and meatball.
Macaroni.
She's all right, man. What did you have the cookies afterwards too?
No, I had a nectarine.
A nectarine.
Come over here.
Hey, Gabagool over here.
Gabagool over here.
My face hurts already.
Well, listen. We finally tracked this guy down, bro. You want a storyteller? We got a guy who remembers shit that happened 40 years ago. I don't remember what I had for breakfast, but he remembers stories from 40 years ago.
If I had a nickel for every time we had to tell him, don't tell us the story.
Yeah.
We have a lot of nickels.
This guy's got more stories than Roofy's got the dead things hanging on his wall. This got a lot of stories.
Yeah, we will definitely not get to them all tonight. That's for sure.
So listen,
I don't think
all you young guys, keep the trap shut and listen to a guy, probably maybe one of the most premier trucks on the job, right? Yeah. He was there in the 70s and the 80s doing it.
Might be a little bit
because I never heard his name before mentioned at all in the shows.
No, that name never comes up.
No, Nuthouse, no Bobby, no
Bobby,
no BA.
BA. Isn't that the guy from the 18 BA? Hey fool, BA Maracas.
Got a SAG card now.
Yeah, that's what it is.
He's a big
time movie guy.
Big shot.
He should get us on. Get us a SAG card. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll tell you what movies he's in. Just don't get up to go to the bathroom because you might miss him. He's in that. He's like, these motherfuckers. I came on the show.
He's shaking his head in the back.
Yep, they're peppering me up. Yeah. I waited for this.
Fucking.
Anywho, yeah, we got a lot of shout outs tonight too. Unfortunately, a couple of guys will do that towards the end of the show. Yeah. But let's jump into the commercials really quick, guys. Do it.
Okay, here we go.
A little Paisan's commercial. A little Paisan Vince.
Oh yeah, let's go. Here we go.
Need a new floor for your fire station? Choose an armor-tough interlocking flooring system to cover your aging, stained, cracked concrete or epoxy floor. Around for nearly 20 years and proven to be the best choice in renovating your station floors, covering nearly 600 floors across the country, ArmorTough is proudly made in America and comes with a lifetime warranty with floors that are usually installed in 1 or 2 days, depending on the size of your station, and no disruption in the process to your station's operations. Our system is guaranteed from chipping, cracking, peeling, breaking, or staining. The tiles are stain resistant and impervious to chemicals or volatiles that are used in the fire service. If you damage one tile, you can lift and replace without anyone knowing. And once it's installed, your floor would be easy to clean with just soap and water. It's not only for apparatus rooms. You can install an ArmorTough floor in virtually any room and choose from the hundreds of colors from the Designer Series or, if you like, from the Utility Series floor coverings. Are you in need of gear racks, an extractor, or gear dryers? Install an ArmorTough floor in your apparatus bay and take full advantage of a deep discount, saving you thousands of dollars on any of the Grove products line. Why install a breakable epoxy floor that'll need replacing in 5 to 10 years when you could have a floor that will last a lifetime? The ArmorTough flooring system is half the price of epoxy and will last a lifetime without issue, more importantly. Join the hundreds of career and volunteer departments nationwide who have chosen an ArmorTough interlocking tile floor. Call Vince today for a no-obligation quote at 908-917-7697.
Here he is.
That's it. Call little Vince. He'll give you a free logo. Free logo for your firehouse. And like my son.
A cherry red Ferrari.
Yeah.
For free! This is
Sorry.
Yeah. Look, Kevin Malone comes in. Look at this. Kevin Malone. Bobby Austin has been one of the most mentioned on the podcast. Bobby Austin. Never heard of him.
Trying to figure out who he is.
I never heard of Bobby Austin. Never heard of him. Yeah. All right. Let's jump into the because I got to tell Louis a little something right after this next commercial.
Okay. Here we go.
Love it.
All right. Here we go.
The First Responders Center for Excellence is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to protecting the lives and livelihoods of first responders. Their education and research initiatives aim to bring greater awareness and understanding to the challenges to the health, safety, and well-being of firefighters, EMS personnel, and other first responders, too. They are an affiliate of the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation.
And there you go. So I went to Rob Brown this week. Ruffy knows Rob Brown, the extended medical, WTC extended medical. So I'm practicing what I'm preaching. Get out there. Don't just do the basic baseline. Get as much as they have to offer. It's free. And there's plenty of states around the country that do it too. So follow up on it. Here's the part I didn't tell Ruffy. I talked to Rob Brown, and he's going to be at the hockey game, the fire police hockey game. And we're going to do a tiny little interview that they're going to put on the Jumbotron in Madison Square Garden of us interviewing him about what he does. 6 minutes. So
6 minutes. That's not a shorty thing, man. You got a nice script.
Yeah. Well, he's in there. I'm on the treadmill with no shirt, and he's filming it. I'm like, what are you doing with this for? He's like, well, I got to put this on the Jumbotron. I'm like, really? I don't have enough guys breaking my balls that you're going to put that
You
on
love it. Who the fuck
Jumbotron.
you kidding? You love it.
And he's got me doing it too. Blah, 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 blah. Kidding me, bro? All right, Ruffy, let's bring this guy in. He was on, he was off. He was on, he was off. He's up. Now we got him. He can't.
I don't know how you. And he was almost off.
And he was almost off as of yesterday. Thank God I had to talk some sense into him. I told him the podcast at night. He's like, I got a furniture delivery coming. I'm like, well, you got a furniture delivery? What does Levitt still deliver at night? What's going on over there?
PC Richards.
Yeah. All right,
you ready, guys?
He's a funny guy.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah, my face hurts already. Coming to the stage.
Here he is.
Our legend, 111, BA, Bobby Austin.
There he is. The one and only. There he goes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks.
Looking forward to it. Pledge.
Before we ask any questions, a couple things I want to mention.
First, losing it already.
First, I want to mention the passing of Fireman Edward J. Steffens, mentioned 214 the other day. Spent 42 years in the back step.
Wow.
Eddie was actually on a job, got drafted, went in the military, came back to the job. One of the best nozzlemen that I've ever known, him and Cy Taylor, right up there with George Day, Harry Fifield from 283. So may he rest in peace.
Amen, brother.
A good friend of mine. Second, I want to go on the record to say I was very lucky to come on a job when I did. October 14th, 1978. Worked where I worked, Engine Company 230 and Ladder Company 111. And the most important part was working with the people I worked with. I had a tremendous privilege to work with probably not only some of the best firemen in New York City, but probably the best firemen in the world. And if I had the time to mention each one by name, it would use up this whole time. So I've been very privileged to be a part of something, to me, that is still very huge. So thank you.
Amen, brother. Let's
Thanks,
get patriotic really quick. So let's don't forget it, guys. Let's do the pledge.
Here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless the FDNY.
That's what I say, bro. Amen to that. All right, so you already told us you got on in the early 70s. What give us a little early background to BA. I mean, the late 70s. So a little early background. Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Levittown, Long Island.
Yep.
Levittown.
Yeah, Levittown, the white ghetto. Basically Irish, Italians, Levitt House. My dad was the second owner. My dad was in Korea. Levittown was built for World War II veterans. And we moved from Queens when I was born in Cambria Heights. Lived there until I think it was 3 or 4. Still remember the address, 11848 227th Street. Because we went back every weekend, you know. Moved to Levittown, grew up in Levittown, went to school there. And my high school was Levittown Division, which was a rough school. It was 7th to 12th grade in one school. So I got there in 67. So here you are, a 12th grader, mixed in with guys that are 18 years old, you know, who could drink, and we're going to Vietnam. So they didn't give a flying fuck. Hard to believe, but I was in honors classes. Really, I was.
For what?
Actually, all through high school. Actually, my mother, God rest her soul, she wanted me to be a veterinarian. That was the role. And she didn't realize it's hard to be a veterinarian than a medical doctor. But she wanted me to be a veterinarian. And after 2 years of pre-med, I realized I'm not going to be a veterinarian, maybe a nurse.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, my senior in high school, 1973, I could have graduated 11th grade, but I was in a special program called Integrated Studies. And it was, you know, all for seniors that really didn't have to be there. And we had gotten an assignment that you had to do a paper about a career. So my father was a printer for the New York Post, and he'd been there for many years. I'm not going to write about a printer, but my dad had a very good friend. His name was Jerry Stowe, who was like an uncle, one of those uncles, you know, you call him uncle, but not really an uncle. And he was in New York City fireman. And I knew that about the FDNY then. So, and he was a New York City fireman in the ladder 119. So my dad said, why don't you contact Uncle Jerry? Maybe you can talk about him. So I called him, and he said, yeah, we'll bring you into the firehouse one night. And that's what I did. So I'll never forget the date. It was October 17th, 1973. And he brought me into the firehouse for a night tour. And I remember most of the guys' names that worked that night. And they went with 211. And back then, they were a pretty busy company. I didn't know about busy companies, and I rode the engine. And I remember Lieutenant's name was Lieutenant Coos. Tony DiDio was the chauffeur. Doug Callahan and Tommy Barback were on the back. And I spent the night there. And a guy named Jack Tide, which I'm sure you heard about, he was in the truck. He cooked that night. I had linguine white clam sauce. I spent a night tour with them. And they had about 16 runs, one job of one fire about 4 in the morning. And that was it. And my uncle drove me back home. I walked into my house and I told my mom and dad,
quitting.
I'm going to be a New York City fireman. And I don't think my father has ever talked to Jerry. Well, he passed away many years. And my parents were like horrified. I said, no, I want to be a New York City fireman. And that was it. That was,
so you found your thing in life.
Yes. Bro. And the funny thing is, 5 years later, almost to the day, I was sworn into the job on October 14th, 1978.
Wow.
Probably one of the greatest days of my life. So I went on the job.
We got a picture of you waiting to get inside to take the test, don't we, John?
Yes,
somewhere?
yeah, that you know. So what happened was, I went to college for 2 years.
Boom.
Yeah, Danny Potter. That's Danny Potter, right in the middle.
Where in the middle of what? There's like 18,000 guys there. Where were you?
The good-looking guy, Coos. The good-looking guy with the hair.
The guy with the striped shirt. That's me. And right next to him was Danny Potter. Danny and I go back a long ways. So we worked in the ambulance service, Medibus. So I decided to be a New York City fireman. But let me tell you, 1975, things weren't good. So they had the layoffs in 75. So I was going to go to Stony Brook, but my cum wasn't high enough to go into the program. I had a 386, and it just wasn't high enough. So I got a scholarship to go to Delphi for nursing. But anyway, full ride. But then they were looking for men. But anyway, eventually, fireman's test came up. And but I was going to Delehanty's. You know, back then you went to Delehanty's. I was taking. That's how I met Danny Potter. I was a volunteer fireman in Brentwood, and I had an uncle. My uncle John Colligan was the chief in Brentwood, so we finally had some common ground. And then I was taking the New York City course. You can go in the city, and but in the interim, I took the Nassau County Police Department test. I took that on October 31st of 1977. 30,000 guys took the test. And then I took the fireman's exam on December 3rd of 1977. And I wrote the same grade on both tests, 97. I took my physical agility on March 12th of 1978. The FDNY 86.6 with a 97 written. And when my list number came out in May of 78, I was 41 on the fireman's list.
Wow.
But I wasn't a veteran. So guys took their veterans credits. So the amended list, I dropped to 223.
Wow.
So I was investigated for the first class. So that January, I went on the Fire Patrol 2. I had taken the test like 3 years earlier, and I got called in January of 78. And I went on the Fire Patrol 2 on West 3rd between Thompson and Sullivan. Great experience. I was only there 10 months, but I worked with great guys. Jimmy Crespeck, Al Taylor, Manny Riley. I stay in touch with Jimmy, Lieutenant Perline, Sergeant Hochstetter, and I spent 10 months there. And I learned a lot.
The Beef was there too, right?
Beefy was there, yeah. Fireman. He made sergeant later on. Tommy O'Kane. I don't know if you remember Tommy O'Kane. Cocaine O'Kane, but, you know, great guy. Yeah. Great. Tommy got jam, but Tommy great man. So and Colorado and Patty Brown,
Right, Patty Brown,
who was in Probie school at that time. He hung out a lot in number 2. He was from number 1. You know, Patty Brown went to Vietnam. He was in number 1. Went to Vietnam. Came back. I think Patty did 2 tours, and he came back and worked in Fire Patrol 1 until he got called for the FDNY. And he used to stay in a firehouse a lot. And in number 2, and we got to be very good friends. And Patty and I were very close. And losing him was a little rough. But Patty, you know, you notice certain guys, as you guys know, that you know from day one, they're going to be something, you know, which I'll get into in Probie school. So,
Bob, we say that all the time.
Yes.
We say that all the time.
So I go on a job less than 10 months later from the day I take the written exam. Take the written exam December 3rd. I'm on a job October 14th, 78.
Wow.
You'll never see that again.
No.
Ever. I'm in I got investigated first class, but I go into second class. Okay. A lot of big. So the funny thing is, most of the guys in that class were veterans. They'd use their veterans points. So there was only like 20 of us that weren't veterans, which was a little tough because the marching and all that shit. But that class, Tommy Galvin was in that class, who I just saw the other day.
He didn't do much.
Yeah. I saw Tommy. I saw Tommy at Captain Steve Barui's plaque dedication the other day. Paul Hershagen, another
Who?
guy.
Who?
Paul Hershagen.
Never heard of that guy.
Never heard of him.
Walking
Mike-
around lopsided.
Mike Pusaferi.
Who's a fairy?
Poos.
Dennis Gordon, Bobby West. So, me, yeah.
It's like the All Stars right there, man. It's the NBA All Stars.
You knew they were going to move up. I was in the second platoon, first squad, number 13. My squad leader was Carl Havens. That was going to 234, great man. The platoon commander was Lieutenant. I can see his face now. He ended up having his son on a job. It'll come to me from Harlem. But anyway, so I go to Probie school, 6 weeks. And it went good. And the instructors, I look back, were terrific. So,
how long was Probie school then, Bobby? How many weeks?
6 weeks.
6 weeks?
And they basically told us, you got to remember, this is a year after the blackout. Blackout was 77. They hired guys off the old list. You know, it was when I got to 230, it was guys in their 30s. They had the emergency hiring off the old list. They hired like 800 guys, and they dropped Probie school to 6 weeks. So when I got there in second class, first class was like guys like Bobby Turner. Actually, Bobby Turner was a great friend of mine.
Another slacker.
Bobby Turner was number one on the list. He wrote the highest written. He had a very high written grade, but he had the highest physical agility. And if you remember, that was the physical agility test that all the women failed. They all failed.
The pull. You had the hanging pull up, the wall, the ledge.
The bent arm hang.
Mm-hmm.
Wrecked a lot of guys. I remember the 10th. We gave it a test. I weighed about 50 pounds, and the bent arm hang eliminated a lot of guys. Where you started, you had about, and it was until you were fully extended and you were out, and you had all these guys like juiced up and shit, all these muscle guys.
Allegedly,
and they jump in
250
they're
pounds.
gone. Yeah. They're down. And guys like me, 150 pounds, we're hanging like a fucking bat, you know. And you had to do a minute. If you didn't do a minute, you're out. You get a 0. But
all that weight.
So, and it was the first thing was you had a dummy carry. Carry a 120-pound dummy up and down the stairs, and everything was timed. And I still have the sheet actually put away. Dummy carry, and then you had the bent arm hang, the wall. That was another thing. They made you had to go along the wall.
The ledge.
That eliminated a lot of girls.
Was a ledge, right, or something?
The ledge walk, and it eliminated a lot of women because of their breasts. You know, they couldn't get close to the ledge. You know,
Big-breasted women.
You did it with a mask. You did it with a mask. He had the obstacle course, and what else did we have? Something else, I forget. But it was tough. Oh, you had a mile running at the end, and I remember I ran 4.5 minutes in the mile.
Wow.
But I was running like a fucking.
Running like a
cell.
Running like a
Running like a bat.
You're running like a motherfucker. And,
hanging like a bat, running like a gazelle.
Yeah, well, whatever. But
smooth.
And then I get my grade, and there was only 100 guys that got over 90. One of my good friends, Greg Piccone, he got over 90. But I ended up at 86.6 with a 97 coming thing. I end up 41, eventually 223 on the list. So now I'm in Probie school, and I'll never forget this. I had gone to my uncle's firehouse a couple of times. So one day I'm in Probie school, and there was a lieutenant named Lieutenant Deal in ladder 118, who was an old school tough guy. And, you know, he knew me as a kid when I came to my uncle's firehouse. And I'm sitting at the table one day for lunch. I'm sitting with Bobby West, Dennis Gordon, a couple of guys. And Lieutenant Deal walks in. And this guy's an old school guy from 26 Truck, 19. And they were doing the safety harness, the old safety harness thing. And he sits down next to me. He sees me, and he says to me, "This job," he had this rough voice, "this job has scraped the bottom of the fucking barrel to hire a guy like you." And my friend just got up and left. And I'm sitting there, and he
Left you hanging.
he shook my hand. He goes, "Good for you." So that's it. So I'm there about a week before graduation, and they had a promotion ceremony up there. So when I was taking the city courses, there was a lieutenant teaching it in Manhattan, and his name was Lieutenant Parinello, and he was a lieutenant in Engine 65. So I was going to courses once a week, and I took the train home a couple of times, and we kind of hit it off. You could tell how I was into the job, and that was it. So while I'm in Probie school, they have a promotion, and same thing. I'm at lunch one day, and they promoted lieutenants and captains, and Parinello sees me. He walks over to me and he says, he remembered me.
Where do you want to go?
And he shakes my hand. He says, "Congratulations. I knew you would get on this job." Now, I did have a little juice to my I was good friends with Louis Garcia. I don't know if you ever heard of Louis.
Was he the fire marshal?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Louis started in 211, got laid off in 75. And he went to 102. And I knew him as a kid. And he was going to be my juice. So he says to me, Parinello says to me, I'll never forget this. He goes, "I'm going to be the captain of Engine 230. Parinello never covered a day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be the captain of Engine 230, which I knew about, being a fire patrol. And he goes, "If you want to get this unit, I'll bring you there." So I said, "Thanks, Cap, but I'm going to 102. I'm in fucking Probie school, and I'm telling the captain I'm going to 102. Okay. That's it." So, about 2 weeks later,
thanks, Cap.
Yeah, I'm close to graduating, and I get a letter to the bag in Probie school from Captain Parinello, and he says, "If you want this unit, I'll still get you." 102. Everybody's going to engines. You remember the first couple of classes went to ERS engines that were doing over 4,000 runs a year. Now, like 290 and 103, they were doing 9,000, 8231, and that's with interchange and full schedule. So he says to me, crazy. "Nobody's going to trucks." Okay. I want to go to Hunter. No. Nobody's going to trucks. All right. So I want to go to 209. 209 was a 4-man engine. That's what I've been in truck. Make a long story short, order comes down. I go to engine 230. And the day order came down, 209 went to a 5-man engine. So Tommy Donnelly and Kevin Rice out of my Probie school went there. I go to 230.
230 is a great house, though, man.
Believe me, I got lucky. I've always said I was lucky to get on a job when I did, October 14, 1978. Worked where I worked, engine 230 and ladder 111, and worked with the guys I worked with. And that was the most important thing. So I go to 230. And Arthur J. Parinello, whose daughter works in the Comac 911 place, he's my captain. So I get there as a Probie. And we're at the camps groups. And he was tough. A very tough captain. But I look back years later, a great captain. So you got to. So, guys, when I got to 230, the day tours, we had bells and the voice alarm. Fortunately, I was better at counting the bells. Yeah, there it is. Because in Patrol 2, we had the bells, voice alarm in Manhattan. So I got pretty good at counting the bells. So you sat assistant house watch, and everything was by the book with him. And you drilled, but he was tough, but he was very fair. So when I first came to the fire, now when I got to 230 in 1970, I got there in November. Other than the guys from the 77 list, they hadn't gotten a Probie there in years. So I was the youngest guy. I was 22 to get to 230
Wow.
in 15 years.
You were a kid.
Oh, yeah. And I worked with two guys that fought in World War II.
Wow.
Frank Trucchio was the chauffeur. He survived the first wave of Iwo Jima as a Marine. Joe Russo, another chauffeur. They both came on in 1955. Joe was chauffeur, drove Sandy Maggio, great officer. He was in the Navy, survived the Battle of Midway. And then a bunch of Vietnam guys, Dave Fletcher, Bobby Lawrence, God rest his soul. Other
You got to
guys.
be careful with those guys, Bob. They're always panicking at the drop of a hat, you know?
Yeah.
You're right.
Fucking so awesome, right?
You gotta be ready to wake up with a Bowie knife at your neck.
Right. Solid guys.
Oh,
Billy Ahern. I remember Billy Ahern. He just passed away a couple of years. Owned suspenders. Dennis Wacola, Bobby Lawrence, Phil Boyko, Jimmy Jones, Harry Gum, son maybe Tanji.
Dennis Wacola was there?
Dennis Wacola, yeah. I was
nice
broken
guy.
in by Bobby Lawrence, God rest his soul, who died line of duty 85. Dennis Wacola, Bill Ahern, and Orman Samuels, one of the chauffeurs. And that was the other thing, in Probie school, they're going to go to firehouse, they're going to break your balls. They didn't break my balls. They were terrific because they hadn't gotten new blood in a long time. But I remember the day I had a report there. You had to get your shit, and I go to 230, and I walk in the door, and I get met by Nicky Rocco. Now, I don't know if you ever heard about Nicky Rocco.
Moose Rocco.
Nicky Rocco. He lived.
So Judge find his checkbook.
Nicky Rocco lived in the basement of 230. That's all.
Oh my God.
Not in the basement.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I go in there, and I go in the back in the kitchen, and and the lieutenant was a guy named Eddie Calabro, who had like 100,000 years on the job. And I walk in, class A, with my folder. I walk in, I go, probation fireman Austin, reporting for duty, sir. So Calabro's got his tie on, which is not tied. He's got his glasses down. Picks his glass up. He goes, "Give me your folder, kid." So he goes through the folder and he goes, "Oh, wow, this is impressive. You graduated very high in your probie class." So I'm like, "Yes, sir. I was number 22 out of 125." And he folds it. He throws it across the room and he goes, "That don't mean fucking shit down here." You're in the ghetto.
I knew that was coming.
Oh yeah. So now I'm like,
no, there was something.
He goes, and Trucchio's there, and all these Billy Ahern, that's what go. And I'm like, oh fuck. And you like to eat, and so they had lunch. While I was there for about 2 hours, they had about 12 runs.
Oh my God!
I didn't go out on the runs. They wouldn't let me ride yet. And I went mostly false alarms, and that was it. And I went home to my parents, and I felt like I died and went to heaven. And worked with great guys, just terrific firemen over there.
Bob, how long did it take you to catch your first job? Do you remember?
Just stole my thunder.
My first night tour.
I was going to say first time.
I think it was actually my first run. We relocated to 80. They had all hands. We got back. My first night tour, we had 2 all hands. Now we didn't wear masks back then. My first night tour, Captain put me on the mask. Maybe the mask man, but 2 guys rode in the back step. And Nosman man, a backup man. Mask man rode behind the officer, and hooker man rode behind the chauffeur. And actually, when I was in 230, you had a phone alarm for a fire. They stretch a line to the front door, just automatically. So my first night we had 2 all hands. Second doing both. I remember I got off in the morning. I went home. I was living with my parents up most of the night. And my dad worked for the New York Post, I got home, my dad was up. And, I had just got my locker and I went home in work clothes. And my dad was sitting, and I was kind of dirty still. And my dad was like, "How was your first night?" I go, "I made a big mistake coming on this job. I thought like you went to a fire, people came out and gave you coffee and shit. I said, they were throwing shit at us. And I said, I made a big mistake coming on this job. And I got to go back in tonight." And I went back, and you know what? It was the greatest thing. And I've talked to Dennis Murphy about this a lot. He came about a year after me. And I remember the first time getting on a rig and going out the door saying, "Yeah, I'm here. I did it. And I'm here." And it was 230 was a great company.
Yeah.
Great company. Lieutenants were great. Eddie Calabro, Sandy Maggio, we called him his immenseness, huge guy, could move like a baby. Eddie Thomas, he was there a short time. He was there a long time. He transferred to Atlanta 106. And then my lieutenant, God rest his soul, Gordy Simon came there. Lieutenant Gordon Simon. One of the best fire officers I ever worked with. And he came there. And I worked with him until I went to 111. Yeah, that's to the left, Greg Piccone, Bobby Kennedy, myself in the middle, John Banbury, and Dennis Wacola.
It's Wacola there, huh? He always had that mustache, huh?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you know the story about his brother Mike.
I don't.
Dennis was assigned a 93 engine, and Mike was in 230, and they actually did a mutual swap. You could do that back then, and Dennis came to 230, and I worked with Dennis in his groups. Him and Bobby, Harry Gunn, they were just great. Carmen Granado, and like I said, when I got there as a Probie, they treated me like gold. They really. Captain was tough. I'll tell you a quick story about Parnell, but Dennis's brother was Mike Wacola. So they switched. Mike made lieutenant, and he went to 5 truck, and he was working. He worked the Monday before 9/11, and it was his last tour in the job. He was retiring at 0900 September 11th. So they had his party, this thing, and I guess the box came in about
No way.
850 something. It was a 5 truck. He goes to get on the rig, is released in, and the lieutenant says, "Mike, what are you, crazy? You're done." He goes, "Fuck it, man. My last job is going to be the best." Not knowing. And he was killed.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he was killed.
I don't think I ever heard that story.
I didn't hear that either.
Yes, he died. He died. Anyway, let's make train of thought. So, yeah, I worked with Dennis. Great nozzle man. But as I said, these guys didn't wear masks. Billy Ahern, who won suspenders, he just passed away a couple of years ago. His father was Harry Ahern from 26 Truck. But just great people. So,
hey, Bob, just one quick thing I wanted to
interrupt.
Sure. You know what amazes me? Like you just said, they had 16 runs or whatever they had in a couple of hours there, right? Like when you look at that area, like 230, 270, all those single engines in that area, right? Yeah. They surround 111.
Right.
How much work, like all of those companies there, right? 227, like it's just incredible how much work those guys were doing.
The good thing, one thing with single, I can tell you something about 217. One thing, especially when it was 111, we ran it with a majority of single engines. So,
yeah, you got a lot of work that way, man.
Well, oh yeah, but when you got to the job, because like I said, those engines, 230, 217, they stretch a line for a phone alarm for a fire. Even nothing was showing. They stretch a line to the front door, which sounds ridiculous. Instead of take it up, but that's what they did, and we rolled in, and most of the time, they already had the line in place, and they're just waiting for us to pop the door. But if they were able to open the door, they're making moves. 230 and 217 with sister engines. We did our company party with them. We did our company picnic with them. The softball team with them. We were in a 5-7 together. And we had 94 boxes. That was it.
That's what I mean. It's such a small area. It's crazy.
First, second, and reserve. reserve engine. I think 217 had about 60, and they were doing like 5,000 runs a year, and we were doing
That's
6.
crazy.
We were on schedule interchange. Every third night we went to 224, and but 217 had a manual door. We had
So you can beat
so
them.
well, see, back then in 78, Louis, it was a lot of work. So
You were.
we had a button. So when you went out the door, you hit the button. That would shut the door. 217 had to go out and roll the door down.
That's crazy.
So certain boxes like 690, Trooper Pulaski, 691, DeKalb and Sumner.
He still remembers the boxes. So.
Well, because they came in 1,000 times a day.
Yeah.
So if we were rolling in, and this could be a
I
job.
missed that.
We'd be rolling in, you'd see a job. If we saw 217 coming, lights were bouncing, we would give them the fire. We weren't cowards, but they were first due. We were gentlemen. Because you know what? We're gonna have our own one later. And they would stretch. And then naturally we'd stretch off their rig. And we got along great with them.
Was Eric Allen there, Bob, at that time?
What's that?
Eric Allen, was he there? Or was
Yeah,
that
he
Mitch?
came way later.
Yeah, later.
That kid. I was in 111 when he got to 217. But working at 217, getting detailed, you either work. See, that was the other thing. You stayed within your battalion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You worked overtime or got detailed in your battalion. And I remember, you're like spoiled. You don't realize there's a whole nother job out there.
Right.
It wasn't until they started doing division-wide details or borough details or citywide details, you realize that, whoa, man, this is a whole different world out there. But when we detailed it, worked overtime, it was always in 5-7. So you either went to 235, 217, 111, or 214. And, excuse me. And, that's what you dealt with. And worked with great guys, But the engines down there and the area we worked in, brownstone, small frames, if you remember, they're engine jobs. They're mostly engine jobs. The truck, especially with an engine pulling up first due, the fire's at the door. You're not doing much. You go in with the line. Maybe the OV is going to make a move. But yeah, a lot of engine jobs. Same with Bushwick.
A lot of vacants too, Bob?
230 had a fair amount of vacants. I remember when I first got there, Orman Samuels, he was a chauffeur there. 230 got foreman 290. And one day we went to Troop and Bartlett. He said, bring a camera in one day. Hey, kid, bring a camera. So I brought a camera, a little disposable. And we stood on the corner of Troop and Bartlett. There was a lot of buildings there, vacants. And he said, take a picture. And he said, when you leave here or you retire, take the same picture in the same spot. Never forget.
Nice.
That's a great idea, man.
So
nice.
4 years later, I'm going to 111, which is a whole nother story. And I go to the same spot and take the picture.
I've never done this before.
There's nothing left.
Nothing
There's
left.
nothing left. It looked like fucking rice paddies in Vietnam. There was no buildings left. And we were good.
No shit.
Everything was gone. All burned down. So, and that was it. So I was in 230, loved the place, but you start to get the itch to go to the truck. And the reason why I went to the truck were all the reasons why I didn't like the truck later. When you're an engine, you get a run, with nothing happen. You pull up, you take a hydrant. The truck guys always get off the rig and do something, right? Gas leak, water leak, food. So when you're a young guy, you want to do something. Years later, you go, oh, fuck this. I should no, I gotta get off. I gotta get projects for
Send the Probie up there.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided I wanted to go. Oh, so you couldn't go to a truck until you had a year on a job. When I went on a job, so after a year, you were allowed to go to a truck. So I was on a job a little over a year, and I get a call one day in 230 from a guy named George Lee, who was a lieutenant 175. Now, my dad wasn't on a job, but he was a friend of my dad's through the Masons, and he was a lieutenant 173, known guy, worked in Rescue 2. Now 175 was on New Jersey Avenue back then.
They're by themselves.
In the 107s, all quarters. Tiller by themselves with all senior guys. And it was
That
the
sucks.
end of the Interborough. You remember everybody was driving in then. You know, it was
Mhm.
carpooling, no 24s. Nobody worked 24s. You know, you worked 24 when you got overtime. 24 hours, and back then you could go to 5 whole hands. So, you know, 24s was blood money. And night tour, you get $150. I used to bartend, make 175. I wouldn't work night tours. So he calls me one day in 230 schools. He goes, Bob, it's George Lee. Oh, how you doing, Mr. Lee? Mr. Lee, right? He goes, listen, would you like to come to 175? And I really know much about the place. And I said, well, I don't know. You know, I'm here 3 years. And he goes, I'm here a year. You know, he goes, why don't you stop by for lunch? Okay. So in between my night tours, I take a ride over there to a single truck at the end of the Interborough with all senior guys.
Mhm.
Like, fuck. You know, how do I get this? I get there. The guys were great. I had lunch with them, went on a couple of runs with them, and that was it. And I went back to 230 for the night tour. And I called him a couple of days later, and I said, Mr. Lee, he says, call me George. I should have called him Lou. And he says, I said, look, I'm not really ready to leave Engine 230. He said, well, anytime you want to come here, I'll have you. Yeah. Well, they had the old filler.
Yeah.
They had the plywood over the cab, you know, like 108 had an open cab, you know. And he said, give me a call. But I stayed there. And stayed there for almost 4 years. So I'm starting to, not that I want to leave to, so I'll go back to parallel. I remember this. So when I came on a job, you had to do a year on probation. 1 year. The guys on the 77 list, Roger Ritchie's, Greg Seminara, you know, all those guys who came right before me, they did 6 months probation and then turned fourth grade firemen. So after 6 months, they got their front piece, 230 front piece. So when I first came to the firehouse, first night, Joe Russo comes over to me and he goes, give me $2. I give him $2. Commissary was $2 and $1 for the third alarm pool. I give him $2. He gives him my 230 front piece. Let's put it in your locker till you get off probation. Okay. So working there, great guys, 6 months come by. And the guy's like, hey, kid, Harry Gum, Bill Aaron, hey, kid, you can take your Probie shield off now. You know, it's 6 months. So I'm like, well, I don't know if I should. You know, I was in the captain's group. No, I was in Gordy's groups. The captain came in between. You know, I don't know. You know, blah blah blah. You know, no, kid, you can take your Probie shield off. So okay, I take it off. You know, I've seen the guys tell you to take it off. So I'm working.
Oh no.
So Captain Parallel comes in for night tour, sees my helmet on the back on the hose bin, you know, hose bed, gear back, you know, running the back step, no mask, and my boots. And he goes in the kitchen, gets a cup of coffee, comes back, sees me, and he points to the thing, he goes, what's this shit? I said, well, Cap, the guys told me I can take my Probie shield off. He says to me, the guys don't tell you what to do. I'm the captain. I tell you what to do. I tell you when you can take your Probie shield, because you got to evaluate it every 3 months. I said, okay, Cap. He goes, I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask you one question about the rig. And if you get it right, you can keep your Probie shield off. Now, guys, I knew this fucking rig inside out. I could tell you the date the butts were made. I said, go ahead, Cap.
The
Shoot.
date the butts were made.
Exactly. He says to me, go get the booster line spanner wrench. I didn't even know we had one.
No.
A booster line spanner wrench.
Shoot the bed. Sorry.
I just went upstairs, took the Probie shield off. And put the Probie shield back on. And he showed me where it was. It was under the chauffeur seat in this big thing with all this fittings, and it's this little tiny wrench. And the booster line was hand crank. It wasn't electric. I just put my thing on, and that was
That's
it.
awesome.
You waited another 6 months.
6 months later, right with Gordy Simon. 6 months later, go for my 4th grade medical, come back October 14th, 19. And I had got my first unit citation, believe it or not, with Ahern and those guys about 3 months before I went on probation. It was another story, but a great fire with great guys. And we got a unit. I got a unit citation when I was a Probie. So 6 months later, hey, kid, you can take the Probie shield off. You better take it off. I don't know. The captain was like, no, kid, don't worry about it. Take the Probie shield off.
Again.
So, what do you do? Put a locker, put the 230 thing on. Who comes in that night? Captain Arthur J.
Didn't we
Paramount.
have this conversation already?
Yeah. And there's my helmet sitting in the hose bed. You're in the back, my boots. He goes in the kitchen, comes in, sees me. He goes, what's this shit? I said,
Did you show him this? Did you get him the spanner wrench at least this time?
Here's the greatest part. It shows you how he was. He was tough and fair. So he goes, Bob, the guys don't tell you what to do. I'm the one who tells you what to do. I'm the one who grants you tenure. But he says, I'm going to ask you one question. And if you get it right,
no,
you can keep your boost. You can keep your 230 shields on. I said, go ahead, Cap. He goes, go get me the booster line spanner wrench.
Softy.
If there was one fucking thing on that rig I didn't know to get, I got it. He shook my hand and said, you're off probation. Welcome to Engine 230. And I'll never forget that.
Wow.
But
cool.
he was
Great
tough.
story, man.
Yeah, he was tough. He was tough. But I look back 40-some years later, and when I see Gina, his daughter, at the 9/11 thing, at the medicals, I always tell her, he made deputy chief. I always ask her, how's the captain doing? And, be honest with you, I look back, and it was a great experience to have him as my captain.
Is he still around?
Yes, he's retired deputy.
How old is he now? He's got to be.
Oh, God. I mean, I'm going to be 69 in July. He's got to be in. I asked Gina lately. I think he's 81, 82.
Oh.
He made captain very young. He was from 112 as a fireman. But tough, but fair. And he showed you the way. And things were different. Back then you sat assistant house watch. Everything done in the book was a certain way. But anyway, so I started to get the itch to go to the truck. And by then, Greg Piccone had come there. Greg Piccone is one of my best friends in the job. Louis Piccone's son from 108. And he gets there, and we right away, two young guys. I got there about a year before you did. And two young single guys, and we hit it off right away. And we are two fucking assholes. And we get nicknamed, I'm Kid Rat, and he's Kid Snake. And we cut doing everything together. So we were just talking about this the other day. So our first Patty's Day, I had just gotten my first unit citation. And it shows you how when you're a young guy. So Gordon Simon was the lieutenant, and it was Patty's Day, and we were having breakfast in the firehouse. We're all in uniform, Class A's. And I remember Gordy Simon coming over to me and
give you a ribbon. Yeah.
And he gives me the pin. Now you're like, oh shit, I got a pin. But that's the way it was. And I'm like, I'm off the charts now. So, we go to city, do our thing. I look back, I'm like 25 years old, 24. Greg's like 23. And we do the gamut. And
nice.
All night out.
Can't feel my face.
So now we take the train. Yeah, we took the train in. And we take the train back to 230's quarters. Take the J. We get off at Broadway and Gates at 2 o'clock.
What could happen?
1 o'clock in the morning in Bevis-Stuyvesant, in uniform, drunk as monkeys. and we're walking arm in arm, and we are cursing everybody out in the street. How we didn't get shot, I don't know. So we finally get to the firehouse. We walk in, and the captain's got his car parked in the and Captain Parallel's there. He's in uniform. He must have marched. And maybe it was 11 o'clock or 12. I don't know. So we walk, and John Banbury, Captain Banbury, was covering the spot, who eventually got to touch. Great man. Great guy. So we walk in, arm in arm, with 2 years on a job, Hamid, and we salute Captain Banbury. How you doing, Cap? He goes, good, boys. And we look at the Captain Paranola. He go, hey, Arthur. How you doing? Hey, Arthur. And his face. So he had his car parked in the firehouse, and he didn't let anybody park in the firehouse. So Coney says, hey, Arthur, what's it? And he was supposed to transfer to 119. He was going to 119. He goes, hey, Arthur, why are you parking in the firehouse? So the captain says, I didn't want anybody to screw with it. So I said, well, Arthur, go park it on Hooper Street because you don't work here anymore. And we leave, and we go to College Point and hang out, and I end up staying over his parents' house, and we laugh our balls off. So 3 days later, I come in for my day tours, and I come
your
in.
CD30 was on the desk.
Well, no, worse. It's not on the desk. So I walk in, I'm in the bathroom, and Piccone comes out of the bunk room, and he is as white as a sheet. I thought he was going to pass out. And he comes in, I go, what's the matter with you? He goes, he's still here. I go, what are you talking about? He's still here. I said, what the fuck are you doing? He's still here. He didn't transfer. Transfer order came down. Captain wasn't on it.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh,
We're
man,
dead.
I don't have that.
Dead. I'm dead.
I'm dead.
You know what? He never said anything. He didn't do anything.
No,
But we both figured I would have been better transfer. Thinking, I figured he was terrific. He took it as a joke. So a little while later,
Overindulged, you might say.
oh, he you know what? Well, you know, he loved his probies. When we all turned grade, we had a big party at Dave Johnson's house. You know, you remember 2:30, 1970. I got there with Mike Thompson, who actually texted me today about this. You guys advertised it. I got a million calls in the last couple of days. We came together, and every 6 weeks we got a probie in 2:30. And I remember when we all turned first grade, we had a big party at Dave Johnson's house out east, and Captain Paranil came out. He was already a chief, and he brought a big sheet cake with all our names on it, the dates that we came on a job. Oh yeah, we were his boys. You know, he was proud of his probies, and he was tough, but he was fair.
Sometimes you have to look back at those things, right? You
Well,
don't see how
Louis,
clear
I
it is.
do. And later on in my career, when I was breaking guys in, you know, I always tell people in a job, you will break guys in the way you were broken.
Yeah, you become
know,
some of
if
those
guys
people.
broke your balls and broke your balls and did stupid shit to you, you're going to do that to the younger guys. If the guys show you the way, you know, and help you out, I mean, they're tough on you, and that's the way you're going to teach your kids, your
You ain't
guys.
lying. You ain't
And
lying.
that's, you know, and let's face it, you know, 90% of this job is experience. Like I said, when I went through probie school 6 weeks, they basically told us, look, we're not going to teach you much here. You know, you're going to learn the basics. When you go to the field, you'll learn the job. One day in probie school, I'll never forget this. They tell us one day, bring your lunch tomorrow because you could buy lunch in it. All right. So the next day, get there, they put us on these school buses and they bring us up to the South Bronx, 1978, up by 82 and 31, which I knew nothing about.
The Bronx is burning.
We get up there and we had put tools in the rig in the bus. We get up there and grew up in Levittown, even though it was Levittown, from Long Island. I get off the bus, like a lot of us, It looked like Europe. It looked like
Lebanon.
Dresden in 1944. Like, holy shit. And we took the tools and we went into these vacant buildings and they taught us how to pull ceilings, how to cut a roof.
Windows. Right?
Yeah, trim windows. Somebody, Mike Bradley, was from Rescue One, was one of the lieutenant, one of the instructors, great guy. They nailed doors shut. I remember one day, that day we were forcing the door, and he heard noise. Turns out there was dogs in the room. You know, vacant buildings, you always had these dogs running around. He wouldn't let us in there because the dogs would attack you. But you learn how to pull ceiling. That was a great experience. But we got up there. I was like, there was blocks and blocks of vacant tenements. And I was like, holy shit. But you learned a lot. But as I said, going back, so I'm ready to go to truck and up at Hunter Mountain skiing. You know, I had 11 years on the job when I got married. So I had the ski house, had the house in Hamptons. I bartended 2 nights a week.
Don't suck.
I'm living life, you know. I got to show you guys something. I went through some shit, and I found my first pay stub. I don't know if you'll be able to see it.
Don't spend it all in one spot.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it.
Come on.
You gotta pick it up.
Up
more.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I took home $319.78 every 2 weeks.
$7.
Woo!
Believe that shit?
$300 every 2 weeks.
You know, and I was living large.
No, really.
I found it the other day. I don't looking for pictures, like, you know. Anyways, bartender. So I'm living a life, you know. But anyway, so up at Hunter Mountain, being with Greg Piccone, and Artie worked. I worked in the fire patrol with Artie. Yeah, it's gonna be a long show, Artie. Artie asked me to mention 9 things. Now it's breaking my balls. So we're up at Hunter Mountain, and we're skiing with Joe Abruzzo, Captain Abruzzo, Captain 132, who was Greg Piccone's godfather, his dad, Louis Piccone, Legend 108. And Uncle Joe says to me and Greg, would you guys like to come to 132? Now, I didn't know much about 132, but would you like to come to 132? I'll have you here. Yeah, there we are, me and Greg. He said, I'll have you here next week.
Wow.
Okay.
Picture.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
Yeah, let's do it. A couple of days later, Greg Piccone was stretching for a job in the projects, the phony projects. I got a nozzle. He comes off the back step, falls down, blows his knee out. That's it. He's fucked up. Put the fire out. That's it. Boom. Medically, he ends up, 6 months, gets surgery. They actually came back to the job, which is very odd. But in the interim, I figure he's not coming back. I'm ready to go to truck. I want to go to 102. I always want to go to 102.
Still don't know where that company is. I still haven't quite figured it out yet.
Want to go to 102. And the big thing with 102 is, at that time, you kind of had to have a sponsor. So the captain was Harry Rogers. Jerry Barber was the lieutenant. God rest his soul. Lieutenant Deletto and Lieutenant Dennis Cross. God rest his soul. And you needed a sponsor. So Jerry Lambert, Frankie Robles, Dave Ireland, those guys, they liked me. So I make the move. I go over there in Class A's, see Captain Rogers. You go over in Class A's. Go in, made the phone call. Come on in, Bob. And I come in, sit down with Captain Rogers, and tell him what I want. And he says, okay, great. Put your paper in. We'll bring you over. Thank you. That's it. So, the other thing, the battalion commander was a chief named Jim Duffy. I don't know if you ever heard of him. I worked with his son in the fire patrol, Billy. And Chief Duffy knew me when I was a young guy. So, about 2 weeks after I put the CD30 in, Chief Duffy comes to the firehouse for a roll call. Come out, and he comes over to me and he says, hands me the CD30. I put 102 in and X'd all the other boxes out, right? He comes over and he says, What's this shit?
You got to put more. You got to put everyone.
I go, I put him for 102, Chief. He goes, you're not going 102. It's not happening. So I went to see Captain Rogers, and he goes, you can't. You got to put other companies in. Okay, so I put companies in. I put companies in I'm never going to go to. Rescue 2, Rescue 3, Rescue 4. Squad 1, and my last choice is 111.
Come on.
Nobody's going to 111. You guys were on a 60-day detail. Nobody's going to 111. At that time, the captain was Tom Brennan. Nobody's going to. I put 111. I give it to him. That's it. Here it is, Chief.
No way.
2 weeks later, you ought to come. So I'm working. I'll never forget. I'm working overtime in Engine 235, and the chief was Ray Brown. I don't know if you ever heard of Ray Brown. I grew up with his son Ray. He's from Levittown, so I grew up with Ray Jr., who Lieutenant 113. I'm sure you heard of Ray. Rescue 1. His 2 brothers, Tommy was in 26, and the younger kid Brian. He became a captain. But anyway, so I'm working OT 235.
Oh my God.
And it's like 10 o'clock at night. And the aide comes down. He goes, Bobby, Chief wants to see you upstairs. Okay. I didn't do anything wrong. So I go up in the office. Chief Brown, who, when he got the spot in the 5-7, actually called me at home. Said, anything you need, I'll be in the 5-7, because I grew up, I knew him when I was a kid. So I walk in the office. I said, oh, Chief. He gets up, he congratulates. He goes, congratulations, you're going to ladder 111. So I'm like, what? He goes, you're going to 111. I go, no, Chief, I'm not going to 111. I'm going 102. So he says to me, well, according to Department Order 111, as of 0900 hours, Thursday, August 6th, you were assigned to ladder 111 truck.
Oh my God.
I can't go there. Those guys are nuts.
I didn't even talk to nobody.
That's where you're going. Congratulations. So now I'm like, holy shit.
That's
so
shit. I don't know. I'm
Friday
nervous now
night,
thinking about it.
Right. I worked my regular tour Friday, have a last minute, party. Call 111. Get Lieutenant Pete Rice on the phone at the time. Oh, yeah, you're going to group so-and-so, so you come in Tuesday. All right. They gave me like 96. Okay, great. I figure I'll bring my gear over and that's it. Okay, I'm going to 111. I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to 111. No. So that's it. So I was bought, so that's Sunday.
Hold on, Bob. What happened with the captain of 102? Did he say anything? Like, did he?
Harry Rogers? No, it came down. I'm seeing guys in the street. I had one more tour left in 230, and they're like, Jerry Lamb was like, what happened? I go, I don't know. And it took me years to find out why I went to 111. Why I was put there. I didn't put it. Well, I did with zombies, but I didn't want to go there because those guys were nuts. They were. Great firemen. Don't get me. And when I was in 230, we didn't run in with them much. We didn't go down south that far. We ran in 102, 108, once a 119, and they were great companies. 102, 100 great companies. I mean,
yeah,
unbelievable firemen there. I could probably mention every guy in 102.
Oh my God, 108. You can mention every guy
108.
too.
I mean, when I get there, Charlie DeMesa was still the chauffeur, and 108 had the open cab rig.
108.
Yeah, and Silky Sullivan was. They used to sometimes they came down Broadway to Park Avenue, and that tiller was not straight. But anyway, I worked the day they had the accident with 102, which put Silky out of the job. But anyway, so so 111. So I never forget I was bartending. So that's Sunday. I get the order comes down at 6. I'm doing on a Tuesday. So the Sunday I'm bartending. So my manager from the bar I worked in was getting married, and they had going to the wedding. He was marrying the daughter of the guy who owns Hillman Colhan eyeglasses. So it's in Kings Point in this unbelievable mansion. So make a long story short, I party a lot with the guys. We go out and I end up getting back to my apartment about 5:30 in the morning in my three-piece suit, and I fall asleep.
Oh no.
And then 9:30, the phone rings.
Oh no.
I get on the phone. I go, "Hello? Yeah, is this Fireman Austin? Yeah, who the fuck is this?" He goes, "That's your new captain, Tom Brennan speaking." so I said, "Yeah, Cap, what we're going to do for you?" He goes, "Well, son, I don't know where you came from, but we start at 9 o'clock on Hancock Street. Your husband's dead."
You have to be kidding me.
And I had a new Camaro. I'm telling you, I'm living a life. I'm in my suit. He says, "Take your time." So I jump my car and I drive to the firehouse. I pull up my Camaro, and I get a standing ovation from all the guys lined up in front of the firehouse. Sometimes, God rest his soul, Kenny Connolly, Bobby Johnson, Mr. J, and I get a standing ovation. I'm in a three-piece suit with no fire gear. And I come out. The first thing Johnson comes over, Mr. J, and he goes, "Listen, kid, before you see the captain, you got to go around the corner there. You got to cross the street and see that Jewish guy. And you got to pick up something." So he tells me what to pick up. 101, one for your first day and one for being late. That's it. Now we're talking now, it's like 11 o'clock. I haven't seen the captain yet. So I get back and I said, "John," and he walked me, Mr. J, he held my hand and walked me to the corner. He said, "This is as far as I go." I come back, I go, "Mr. J," well, I knew these guys, that guy's not an Arab, he's Jewish. He said, "The last time I had to go there, kid, he was Jewish. There was a Jew there. You better go up and see the captain." So now I go upstairs, knock on the door. "Come on in." I walk in. I'm in a three-piece suit, still hungover, and an hour, almost 2 hours late to meet Tom Brennan. And he gets up, shakes my hand. He goes, "How you doing, Tom Brennan?" I go, "Fireman." I came in, Fireman Austin reporting for duty. He gets up, shakes my hand. "How you doing, kid?" "Tom Brennan." He says, "Listen, three things. Number one, the senior guys are not going to talk to you. Number two, we don't wear masks in this company. And number three, we don't cough on the fire floor. If I hear you coughing on the fire floor, you'll be out of here. Now get the fuck. That's it. Get the fuck out of my office."
We don't cough on the fire floor.
That's right.
That sounds like a shirt, bro.
Dude, that does sound like a shirt.
That sounds like a shirt.
And that picture, what's classic about that? So I work in his groups with Kenny Connolly, Dougie Symes, unbelievable fireman. And I'm a lunatic. I'm just a funny guy, I guess. I don't know. And I remember we had two jobs that day. I had the can. I borrowed I borrowed turnout gear. I'm in a three-piece suit. Oh, so what happens is, so we get done with that. So now it's like 12 o'clock, eat lunch. And now the guy's like, "Come to the yard. Let's go hang out in the yard, kid." I don't know. I mean, come on in the yard, So I'm in the yard doing what we did in the yard, and the old man comes down. He walks in the backyard and sees me with the dude, Mike Leamy, and he says, "What are you doing with this guy?"
You're making poor decisions, my man.
Of course, they give you right up, and the Duke's like, "I don't know, Cap. I don't know what this fucking kid, He's back here with me." Mike Levy said, "Yeah." So Mike Levy says, "So, hey, Bobby, I heard you didn't want to come here. You want to go on a tow."
Oh,
no. I says, now I'm back. I'm feeling it. I go, "No, I don't want." I said I put in for an engine in Wantor in the truck in East Meadow. And Brennan's over the table to kill me. So, and that was it. And somehow, so we got 2 jobs that day, and I stayed right with him. And I can tell you, my first tour was with him. My second tour with Jim Basil, and I can tell you right now,
that name I hear over and over again.
I could tell you the serial number on the heel of their fucking boots, their shoes, because that's all I saw. You just grabbed onto their foot, and you went with them. But great teachers. And Brennan and I, we ended up becoming, he loved me for some reason. Him and the Duke, Kenny Connolly loved me. He was one of the biggest ball breakers in the firehouse. And for some reason, he just took me under his wing. He taught me a lot. But so
Why'd they call him the Duke, Bobby?
he was the Duke, you know.
He coughed on the fire floor.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, you're gonna
John
stand.
Wayne.
This guy won in his career. You know, he won the Bennett Medal, the Kane Medal, in another class 3. He won the what's the one you get every 3 years?
Archer?
The Archer Medal. He was just an amazing fireman. Tremendous. Could take it. There's 3 types of guys in this job. There's a guy who can take the beating, and he gets respect. Take the fucking beating. Not as good at making moves, but take a beating. Then you have another guy that's can't take a beating like the other guys, but he knows his moves. You know, he's smart. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Then you get the guy that can take his beating
And have the moves.
So those are the Bobby Schaefers. Those are the Kenny Connollys, the Dennis Conways, you know, the Tommy Craig. These are the guys.
Eric Weiner seemed to always be in the right spot, dude.
Eric is another guy. Well, Eric had a lot of instinct, and he, you know, let's face it, though. You know, I made 1 million searches. I mean, it pulled some people out, but you make 1 million searches, take a beating, never pull anybody out.
I got
Some
you,
guy
man. It
calls
just seemed
in,
like that guy was always in the right spot, man.
Yeah, and pulled Eric out a couple times. But we stay in touch. He's
Allegedly.
Oh yeah, well he'll tell you. But
I mean, how many legendary guys were in that place, though?
well, you know, the other thing, Louis, is, and I've always said this too. There's guys that the whole job knows their name. The Tom Nearys, all right, the Jack Pritchett's, Patty Browns, the Larry Fitzpatrick, God rest his soul.
Dennis Cross.
The whole job, but the whole job knows their names. But then there's a ton of guys that nobody knows their name out of the battalion, and they're great firemen. You know, like I said, Tommy Craig, Billy Chesney, that worked in the place. I can mention Charlie Williams. I mean, guys that I worked with that were phenomenal firemen, but outside of the battalion, nobody knew them. And that's how the job is, you know. And not only that, you know, you never hear about great enginemen. You know, everybody in the truck is, I mean, you know, I work with George Day. Right now is when 230. He's one of the guys that broke me. I'll never forget when I first got to 230. George Day laid it right out. He says, "Hey kid, here's how it works. All right, this is easy chopping well. We get a run, you jump on the back of the pump. You don't have to know where you're going. The only guy has to know where you're going is the guy dropping it. So when we get there and we got a job, see them big guys over there in the truck? They get there, they break the door, they break the windows, they go in, they find the fire, they get the people out. When they find the fire, they call us up. We go with the hose, we hit the red shit. When the red shit goes out, we put the hose back in the rig. We go back to the firehouse and we eat lunch. And he said, "That's the New York City Fire Department." And he was right. It's very simple, you know. And George was another legend in the job. You know, one of my first fires with him, we had a job at 108. Rough frames. I didn't know what a rough frame was. I think it was my second day tour. Didn't know what a rough frame was. Didn't know what exposure was. So we go there as the reserve engine. It's up there. It's like 216 and 218 and stuff. So we pull up, and this fire's blowing out of this building, and it tells us to stretch a line into the building exposure 4. I don't know what it was. Stretch a line in the building next door. So we stretch a line. We go to the top floor. And there's a truck up there. I think it was 140. I forget. So we're up there. You know, we got no masks. You know, nozzle man, backup man, don't wear a mask. Third man has a mask, mask man. So we're up there, and George got a cigarette in his mouth. And, you know, it's like a little hazy and shit. So now they start pulling the ceilings, and the fire's burning. But it's not bad. So he says, "Hey, kid, get down. You got to get down." So I'm like, "No, I'm okay, George. You know, This is my third day in 2:30. I'm okay, George. Now, kid, get down on your belly. Right? Not George, I'm okay. All right, kid. He opens that line up. It's like fucking lights out. Cockball smoke. Worse. I hit the deck, and I am coughing my balls off. He's on his haunches, knocking the fire down. And he puts it out pretty quick, but I'm on my belly, coughing my ass off. And he lets me wash down. And he turns around, he goes, "Hey, kid." I said, "Don't worry about it. Whatever you tell me to do." But
Next time I'll listen.
whatever, But another kind of legendary guy,
Who was the guy that you felt like you latched onto in 111 right away?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Who was the guy you latched onto in 111 right away? Like who'd you feel?
Or
was all of them?
I didn't really latch on to everybody. I just followed what they told me to do. Like I said, Kenny Connolly took a big liking to me from the beginning. Brennan, I can tell you, Brennan, you've heard of Tom Brennan. I mean, So every day at 2:00, I had to take the bucket up and practice with the bucket, even though I'm probably not going to see the OV for 10 years. But that's the deal. 2:00 up in the bucket. So I'd be up in the bucket. So I would come in the yard and say, Doug Symes, I know him from 11 times, great guy. You got to pull it. So they pull a rig out, and I'd be up there. And later on, one of the ways I trained my probies with the bucket was I used to get a broom and tie the broom to the basket.
Just
and
sweep it.
And they had to keep the broom on the building. That was like my idea. But anyway, so I'd be out there doing what I had to do. And there was certain things you had to learn. So I had to be there at 2:00. And so one day, 2:00 comes and, "Hey, guys," Duke's in the back, and, "Hey, Kenny, could you put the rig out?" "No, park that, asshole. We're not doing that today. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do that." I go, "Look, I got to be out there. The captain, don't worry about it, kid. Sit down, have a drink, I got to be out there." So, 2 minutes after 2, he don't hear the bucket. He comes into the backyard, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, and of course, they're like, "Yeah, Cap, we don't know what the deal is with this kid. We keep telling you out there practice." And he's back there hanging out. He's a handbag. They give you up right away.
That was
right under the bus, bro.
Right
under the bus.
They see if you
Rat
go for it.
So-
I swear to Christ.
So one day, another time, I'm doing things that but I didn't cough with Bren. I mean, I did, but. And one day I'm up in the bucket with Rudy Weinler. I don't know if you ever heard of Rudy. Right?
Yeah.
And we're practicing. I always wore my radio. That was another story. So we're practicing the bucket, and I take the, bucket up to the window and you always keep the bucket below the window and all the shit. And Brennan's in the office, and he's on the phone with his back to me. So I come in through the window, and I crawl. And I grab him by the collar and I pull him off his chair. And I get on the radio and I call Rudy. I said, 111 off feet, 111. I need help up here. I got a big fat fuck. I'm pulling Brennan, and he's trying to hit me with the phone receiver. The phone gets pulled out of the wall, and I drag him to the window. And you know what? He loved it. He loved it. But yeah, I did that. That was kind of crazy.
Guys, put a picture up. Find a picture of 111 and 214.
Oh, so a picture of Brennan and me. Brennan had a broken finger. Yeah,
it is.
So his finger was broken. So it was always point. So I worked on bending my finger like him, and I got it to work. So he always had a drill right after the fire. And one day he was pissed off at me about something, and he's pointing at me. And he gets done, and I go, "Hey, Cap, are you talking to me or Murphy?" Because Dennis was standing next to me. "Are you pointing at me or Murphy?" And he just put his hands up and walked away.
You can see, look at you. He's looking down at his finger there.
I worked with great fire officers, but he was. But so another thing with him, I was habitually late. I would guess when I worked with him. So I was late, and then one day he tells me, "If you're late one more time, I'm going to kill you." All right. So one day we're working, We had a couple jobs. So he's getting off. I'm in the yard with Kenny. We're getting off duty. So the captain comes in the backyard. He says, "What are you doing now?" And I had a date that night. And he says, "What are you doing now?" I says, "Well, I have a date tonight, Cap." He says, "Well, you know what? You're coming with me. My brother Billy, who's a retired first grade detective, is bartending. I know he's a big name bartender. So we're going to Whitestone. You can meet my brother Billy." I said, "Cap, I got a date." So the Duke, "Hey, kid, Parker Captain told you got to go drinking. You go with him." Okay. So we go to Whitestone. And his brother's, it's all cops. So make a long story short, we're drinking. The whole night's going on. So I'm calling him Cap all night. And he says to me, "Hey, kid, you don't have to call me Cap. You call me Tommy. All right? You call me Tommy." "No, Cap, I can't do that." "You call me Tommy from now on." "All right, Cap." So that's it. So we leave like 3 a.m. We're both working next day. He drives to the firehouse. Not me, like an idiot. I drive back to Levittown. That's it. Go to sleep. Get a call about quarter to 10. It's the Duke. "Hey, kid, you out with the parking cap last night, and he's here, and your night, he's going to kill you.
He's here, you're not.
You're not, he's going to kill you." So I drive in, and I pull up. He's on the apron. And I used to do a great Brennan imitation. You can ask Dennis Murphy. They're hiding behind the rig. Rudy Weinler and Kenny Conley are behind the rig looking because they figure he's going to kill me. I walk up to him, I grab him, and I kiss him on the cheek, and I go, "Hey, Tommy, I had a great time." And he just went upstairs, and that was it. And the Duke was like, "I don't park, I believe it." And I got away with it.
You got to have like a special, to be an officer in a place like that, you got to really, it's, the guys love you and they respect you, but they do crazy things, right?
Well, the reason why we got away with what we got away with, and I'm not saying, is because we did our job, and the Chiefs. I remember Mike Computer one time saying, when we went to the 370, he says, "You guys are a pain in my ass, but I love it when you turn the corner." The guys, they were good, and they were tremendous firemen. I always tell people, I went to work every day trying to be like those guys, knowing that I never will be.
There he is.
There's Dennis.
So I don't know if you noticed, Bob, but that's Coobs and I. That's our guy,
Dennis Murphy.
Yeah, he was the one who taught us a lot of stuff.
Dennis Murphy is one of the greatest firemen I've ever worked with. We became great friends in Hancock Street. We had house in Hamptons together, ski houses. Great fireman. Worked with Dennis, and you knew that Dennis was going to be somebody in the job. And I remember when he was talking about going to Rescue 2, and he had asked me and Dennis Conway about it. And I remember one day he grabbed me and he says, "I'm thinking of going to Rescue 2. What do you think?" And, there's 3 ways you leave 111. You retire, you die, or you get promoted. That's the only 3 ways. That's what Jimmy Basil said. He wanted to go to Rescue 2. What do you think I should do? And I said, "You know what, Dennis? Absolutely. Your career path, you're going to move up in this job." And believe me, he went there. Had he not failed the battalion chief's test, I think he would have ended up taking over like Ray Downey's job or whatever. He would have been in charge of rescue services. I mean, 288, as you know, Kevin, Pete Gansey told him, "You're going to 288. That's it." And in fact, Vinny Ongaro.
Man, Vinny's the best.
Well, I brought Vinny in.
Yeah, he's the 111 guy,
right?
About
Vinny. One day we're in the
rope
yard.
rescue.
Well, here's what happens. So we're in the yard one day, doing our thing, and Vinny comes in. He goes, "Yeah, can we go over the roof rope?" And I'm like, "Vinny, it's 3:00. He goes, "I want to go over it with you," because I used to teach my guys to tie it blindfolded, and I could tie it blindfolded. So, all right, go get the fucking rope. So we go through the evolution, does a great job. All right, you can pack it, time, and that's it. 2 days later, he makes the roof rope rescue. Unbelievable. On Gates Avenue.
I didn't know Ongaro made a roof rope rescue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not only one. He went. They pulled him back up.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, no, they did. I mean, he broke the rules because after the first person he pulled out, they used the same rope and shit's hitting the fin. That's it. But yeah. So what happened was I studied with Vinny, my first time studying for lieutenant, and and the guys thought I was going to do well in the test. And week before the test came, I said, you know what? I'm not taking the test. I don't want to be a lieutenant. I worked the overtime. People were shocked.
I worked the overtime. That's everybody.
I didn't want it. And then I studied again, and that time was serious. And Basil said, if you make lieutenant, you got my lieutenant's bars, which you never wore. And I took the highly protested test, and I wrote a 68 with 21 years on the job and a couple of medals. So all I had to do was pass. Passing turns out 70. I got a 68. And out of 16 answer changes, I didn't get one.
You get one of them? Of
course. Ellen McNair got all 16, but I'm not going to.
I'm sitting here thinking, how many guys I know? You got Donnie Haid, you got Botello, you got Jimmy Ellison, you got Ray Strong, you got Yakumovic. I mean, I can't even think about how many guys that came out of there.
Chris Isa, my pro.
Oh, Malcolm came. Malcolm.
But anyway, so I'm glad I didn't make lieutenant because, for one reason, I could never be a hypocrite. I wouldn't stand for a guy when I was a boss, things like that. But I didn't really have a desire. But I told all my probies to study. And I used to tell them, like, here's what I used to do. We'd be at a job, Kevin Profit, like Pete Yancey.
Oh, prolific, right.
Yeah. Scotty Seibert, Chris Isa, story about that with his father. So I used to, after fires knocked down, and they'd be pulling ceilings, and I'd tell them, take a break here a minute. Now, I want to show you something. See them two lieutenants over there? What are they doing? They're bullshitting about how they got fucked out of an overtime tour. And then what they do is they take the flashlight and they point to a spot and tell you to put a hole there. And then they go back. And they make it 30% more than you. And then all they do is carry a flashlight. So is this what you want to do? And, the young guys, they all want to be the senior man, And I was a senior man in 111 for almost 7 years. And I didn't drive, and I used to tell them.
You could tell here with your sneakers on as you were on.
Well, I was on
the turntable.
I was out of a job then. I was coming home from
rehearsal.
I was coming home from rehearsal because I worked as an actor now, and I was coming home from rehearsal in Manhattan. But I used to tell the guys, you become a senior man. I said, everybody leaves. They do. Like, they either retire or they die or they get promoted. It's not like they take you downtown and go, Santa puts a sword on your shoulder and go, oh, you're the senior man now. So study, and they all did. And Pete Yancey's the captain. Kevin's the captain. Chris Isa.
Chief.
How was Donnie Haid when he was there? Do you remember?
Great officer.
Great, right?
Great fire officer. Terrific fire
He's still doing it. He's 70-something years old.
Yeah. All my officers, 90% of them were terrific. I was in Basil's group for 11 years, working with Jimmy. That's a whole nother man, a whole nother story.
His name comes up a lot.
Oh God. He was a Marine and survived the frozen chosen. 102 truck, never wore a mask. Just a tough guy. But yeah, all our officers. Eddie Kilduff came there for about a year.
Ed.
God. Chief Kilduff.
I like to call him Ed.
Luke calls him Ed.
He got. I forgot who left. Oh, Chris Liana got out. So Kilduff came, and he was a young guy. I mean, he came on a job right before I did, but he came on in, I think, December 77. Yeah, and I came in fall. So he came to 111, covering UFO, and young guy, but Great guy.
Sweetheart,
Terrific.
man.
Oh,
Incredible.
great fire officer. I went to a lot of fires with him. Just a tremendous fire officer. Great, and he learned a lot. But what happened is he got bumped by another guy, Norman Kalish, Stoneman Norman Kalish from
Stoneman.
120, a legend. And as much as we loved Eddie Kilduff, but Stoneman, Eddie probably had about 40 points, and Stoneman Norman probably had about 5,000. But Eddie ended up in 112, and then he went to the 3-8 as a potential. So just a great guy, great fire officer, and it was a real pleasure to work with him. But we had terrific bosses over there that came through the ranks. Great teachers,
You guys drilled a lot there, right?
Yeah. Informal drills, kind of like, you came back from a job and you always talked about it. Brandon was big, like in the street, asking you questions right away. What'd you do? That famous story with my radio. We caught a job in Kingsborough Walk, and I had the OV. I'll tell you 2 great OV stories. So I get there and report of a guy trapped on the 4th floor or whatever. So I jump in the bucket, take off, take the window, and it's like the kitchen and the bedroom going, and the guy's laying right there. So, and they're banging on the door, and they're not getting. Brennan was the officer, and they're having trouble getting in. So I pull the guy out, throw him in the bucket, drop, and I actually crawled and opened the door for him. It wasn't that bad. So drop the guy's, open the door. Hey,
That's a class 3 today.
Now, I'll tell you what happened. So it's over. We get to the street. So we have a little drill. So Brandon says to me, he goes, "Hey, I was calling you on the radio that we couldn't get in. Why the fuck didn't you answer?" I go, "I left my radio back at quarters cap." And he looks at me, he goes, "What?" I said, "Well, I couldn't give it 10:45. I said, I left my radio back in the firehouse." He goes, "You will wear your radio every day till you die." And I did. I read it. I wear it. When you ask anybody, I never took my radio off to that day. This picture. Somebody sent me this years ago. I don't remember the street. I think it was Hart Street, but I'll tell you exactly what happened here. We had I think it was the top floor. I went in the window from the bucket. I think it was Hart Street, and making my move, and it started to get sour real quick. So naturally, you guys know the tower ladder. You get chased out a lot, and it was gonna light. Your clock is going in your head. All right, I got 15 seconds left, and I went out the window into the bucket, and below the window, and I pulled the bucket away, and it just lit up. And the first time that happened to me, we caught a job on I forget where it was, down by Reed Avenue, and Kenny Connolly was driving. So they teach you to keep the bucket below the window, right? So that if you find somebody,
It's easy to load them.
You can load, and plus you stay low. So
Right.
we caught this, my first time in the OV. We caught this job. It was in a 4-story tenement. Fire was on the 3rd floor. Never forget it. An exposure 4 side. So I jump in the bucket and take off. I'm on my way up to the 3rd floor, and fire blows out the windows. All right, so where do you go now? Your job's done. Guys don't understand. The OVM's real main job is to vent. So where do I go? Should I go above the fire? Well, it's blowing out the window. So I go to join top floor apartment. And I go crawl back, and I go on the top floor, and I'm in there, and I left my hook by the bucket, but I didn't have the bucket below the window enough. It was up about a foot, and it's starting to get bad, and I got to go. And I ended up going out the window, and Jimmy Pepe was driving. He said, the flames were at your feet. So I landed in a bucket. Back then, the stick was straight up. I had no gloves on. so we didn't wear gloves. And I'm trying to reach the joystick to get me out of there. The car's burning shit. And I'm trying, and I'm on the bitch spot going, Duke, Tenny was dry. Duke, get me out of here. I'm burning. He goes, park your asshole. I told you to keep the bucket below the window. You can stay up there and burn up. And he leaves me up there for like 2 minutes. And I'm laying with my hands over my head like, get him. And then I got to the street and he goes, yeah, and true story. That was my first time in the OVM. That's a tough position to learn.
You know what I remember at 111 when I first got on the job, when I used to listen to Brooklyn was, it could be a fire in Coney Island, and I would hear Warren say, "Yeah, 111, take that in."
Yeah, well,
he would send you to every effing fire that
Georgie
there was.
Munch, yeah. George Munch and I were great friends because we were in a fire patrol together. Warren Fuchs and George Munch, probably the two best fire alarm dispatchers in the city's history. Just great guys. Just knew the job. I think they both, between the two of them, knew every alarm box number.
Oh my God! He would take you off boxes. Like if you were going somewhere, he would take you off. Oh, you got a job coming in there, 111. Yeah, 103, stay in service. You're like, shit.
I don't know if you guys. So back in '99, I got detailed to the 3-7 Battalion for a year. Gene Jasinski was the battalion commander. Bobby Gleason's a friend of mine, was up there, and they wanted a senior guy up there for a year. I said, you know what? I'll take it. Sounds like a lot of fun, And it was. I had a great time. So, but I've had two famous radio transmissions in my life. I was working the night of the millennium in the 3-7. And the 3-7 had the last all hands of the 20th century. And the first second alarm of the 21st century. So I was driving that night. Jasinski was the officer. And we catch a job, first two. And I'm giving a size up on the radio, and it turns midnight. And George Munch, a friend of mine, he's on the radio saying, this is now the year 2000, blah, blah, blah. And Jasinski gives me to this. Transmit a second. I get a radio. I go, 3-7 Battalion of Brooklyn Urgent. He goes, go ahead. I go, box 685, transmit a second alarm. Happy New Year, George. It got all the way downtown, and they were Pete Yancey was still the chief, and they heard about it in Manhattan. I thought I was going to get in trouble, and so I did a year there, came back, and then when I got hurt in the job, a school bus blew red light at 50 miles an hour. I never drove. I
was going to ask you, why not? What, you didn't want to?
Well, what happened was back in 1985, they started this company qualified thing because chauffeurs had a tough time making mutuals. Of course, the city looked at it paying over. So you could become company qualified. So you had to drive 5 hours. And we had a standard shift. So Captain Brennan, I drive the rig 5 times. Makes everybody company qualified. All right, that's it. So I come into work one day, day tour, and Howie Vanesky, God rest his soul, great fire officer, great officer. I come in, he says, you're driving today. Okay. I knew how to, So, all right. So I had my Camaro, and I was parked in front quarters by the hydrant. There was a parking spot. We always parked there. You know where this is going now, right? So the chauffeurs always told me, when you make a left out of quarters, always watch the bucket because it tracks, and you hit the wall. So we get a run. 10 minutes after 9, I jump in the rig, start it up, put in second gear, come out. I'm looking to the right, make sure the bucket clears, and bam, I hit something. And I stole the rig. I looked down. I hit my own car. So Vanesky goes, what the fuck was that? I go, it's okay, Lou. I hit my own car.
We'll deal with that shit later.
This is the best. So I start the rig up again. Vanetsky reaches over, puts his hand on my chest. He goes, Austin, you're out. Maloney, you're out.
Next man up.
And I never drove again. So every time Oh, so that night I'm working OT that night, and Greg Evans, Greg Fireman, he didn't have a driver's license because we didn't got a 77, and they made him company qualified. The engine, Jimmy Basil. So I moved my car. Jimmy Basil had bought a brand new car. Jimmy Basil used to come to work with the worst looking cars you've ever seen in your life. I mean, one time he had a pipe holding the back of his driver's seat. So he buys this new car. I don't know what it was. So he's parked in the spot I was. The engine gets an ERS box.
Oh, no.
And out the door they go. And boom, we hear an explosion. We're all in the yard. We all go running out. And 214 ran over the front of his car and totaled it. But Jimmy was they took care of it. So the next morning, I'm in the bathroom, and Bobby Schaefer walks in. Now, you've heard about Bobby Schaefer, who said 3 words to me in 3 years. He walks in, shuts the bathroom door. He says, "Hey, kid, I heard you were driving yesterday and you had your own fucking car." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "The kid in the engine pulls out a cord, says Jimmy's car, and takes you off the hook. That's why they call this place the fucking nut house." And he walked out. And I was like, "Holy shit, kid." So I had about 11 or 12 captains. And every time I get a new captain, especially when I had time on the job, listen, you want to send you to chauffeur school? I'm like, "No, I don't want to go to chauffeur school, captain." "No, we're going to send you." "No." And I'd say, "Cap, let me tell you a story." And I would tell him what happened. He goes, "All right, who's after you?" But the funny thing was, Steve Probie, you just who can't do as a captain. I remember when he was a Probie in 222, great guy. So, I had 29 years on the job, on the back step. And not that I was getting tired or not that I was taking my duties, but, the guys, "Yeah, why don't you drive?" So Scotty Seaver was, one of my Probies. So I thought, you know what, maybe I will. So I spoke to Captain Probie one day and said, "I'd be interested in going to chauffeur school." And the guys will give me, he goes, "Absolutely, Bobby, we'll get you in next class." So 2 nights later, I'm working, and I had stopped cooking. I cooked all the time, but letting young guys cook. So that night I had a cook who was no talent. Eric was working.
No talent.
Oh, Eric couldn't he couldn't boil water. And we're working, and I guess it was about 6:30 in the morning, and we had 2 jobs or a job, and we get a run about 6:30 in the morning, and we go out the door, and I'll never forget, we made it right out of quarters. I lit a cigarette up, and I go, "Where are we going?" And they had the OV, and they said, "Smoke in the church on Troop Avenue." I said, "Hey, holy smoke!" And we're in the corner of Sumner and Hancock, and I looked to the right, and bam, this school bus T-boned us, and that was it. And I went to, they took me to Bellevue, and that was it. I was out 9 months later. So I never made it to chauffeur school.
There's a couple of questions in here. Somebody asked.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Somebody asked who brought the alligator in that Captain Murphy mentioned.
An alligator into 111?
No, I think he was talking about 176.
Right? Oh, 176 had an alligator.
Yeah. I think
they had a lot of animals over there.
Yeah.
Here's another one
over there.
Yeah. Here's another one. Does Bobby have any good Patty Concannon stories?
Yeah. No. Let's go past that. Yeah, 176 had a menagerie. Yeah, they were. That was the other thing. Like, especially when I went to 111 years ago, there was no competition between companies. Everybody did their job. Nobody was trying to beat people in. Everybody went to where they're supposed to be. One thing about 111, I will say, 111 was always a position truck. You got to be in a position. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You had an assignment, and I mean, sometimes things would happen, but so another thing I remember, I had just gotten 111, and one night, this is a lesson I taught my Probies. I had just gotten there, and it was like my 3rd tour, and they had to give me the roof that night. because we had 2 details from whatever. So I get the roof. So Doug Symes and Kenny Connolly and Cy Taylor, they give me the roof drill. 8 seconds. All right, kid, here's what you do. You pull up. If you can't use pull up. You use the jointed building. If you can't use the jointed building, use the bucket. If you take the jointed building, cross in the front, not in the rear, blah, 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 do this. Then, okay, that's it. You got it. 2 minutes after, 2 minutes later, boom, 676 box comes in. Marcy and Pulaski, fire in the top floor, people trapped. Okay, we jump, we take off, we get there, and I see 102's aerial to the top floor. I get off the rig. I take the jointed building. I had the hook and Halligan in my right hand. I take the adjoining building, get up there, come out of the scuttle, and the fire's blowing out the bulkhead. I've never seen this, being an engine. And I'm so mesmerized, I run across the rear, and I fall in a 4-story shaft.
Did you do that?
I fall,
my God.
But my left hand caught the parapet. My right hand hit the wall where the tools. I broke my finger, and now I'm hanging 4 stories up. But not long. Remember when you did the 8-foot wall in Probie, when you were taking a test? I walked up that wall and rolled over onto the roof. And I'm laying there like, holy shit. So and the fire's, and there's nobody on the roof. I'm the first guy there. So the fire's blowing out the window, out the bulkhead door. It's like, all right, take the skylight. But I'm shook. And the bucket comes up with the Duke. And he's got the sword. And I found out later, I'm just standing there shaking. And the Duke comes over and he goes, "What the fuck's the matter with you, asshole? What are you doing?" And I pointed to the shaft. And he said to me, "We'll talk to you later." And after the fire was out, we cut a hole in it. We got back to the firehouse. And Doug Symes and Kenny Connolly and Cy Taylor ripped me a major new ass. They really did. To the point of, they said, if you fell in that shaft and you were dead, we would have just left you there. Oh yeah,
Very nice. Very nice.
Really serious. There's no sympathy in air country, but that was one of the points I would teach the young guys. Cross in the front, stay on your belly, use your hook. But I was young, I was new, and you get mesmerized. Holy shit, But that was another lesson I learned.
Where did they come up with the peanut, Bob?
What I heard was it came up from back in the day. When I got there, they ate a lot of peanuts. And our original patch was designed by Lieutenant Wally Malone's daughter, Mary. And the job turned it down because there was a hole. It was supposed to be 2 crazy guys. Oh, God, what would be the names? I can't remember that. And the job turned it down because there was a hole in the boot. So, yeah. So, see the hole in the boot?
Mm-hmm.
They turned it down because of that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, well, who were crazy guys back then? Napoleon. The 111 guy was Napoleon. I forget. So the job turned it down. So I think it was Dennis Conway, actually, said, "Let's do the Peanut Man." And, and that was perfect. By the way, Dennis Conway, great friend of mine, great fireman. He's in hospice.
Oh,
yeah. I go to see him. We all go to see him quite often. Great fireman. Tell another story with Dennis. Tough guy, very tough. One night, I was new there. Hope I'm not taking too much time up, but
no, you're good.
We interchanged every third night. I remember when I retired, and Sal Casano, a good friend of mine, retired my badge, and I didn't have quite 30 years. If you have 30 years, your badge can be retired automatically. But if you have under 30 years, only chief of department can retire it. So the day I was getting out, there was something I was called up. But anyway, so he retired my badge. And he said to me, you realize that you're probably the last guy to leave this job that worked on the last 2 scheduled interchange companies. When I got to 230 in 1978, we were on scheduled interchange. We interchanged with engine 224. So every third night we interchanged, we had to leave a guy back because 224 is a 4-man engine. And then we went to 224's quarters. And then there was a little incident, I guess, that happened. And then they started sending us to 206, which, was way out nowhere. You couldn't get any trouble. And then when I went to 111, you're on schedule interchange with ladder 159 every third night. So, one night we were on interchange in ladder 159. So when you interchange, you're that unit. It's not like you relocate. You're not 111 acting 159. You're 159. And 159 is not acting 111. They're 111. So we relocate there. We're back. I mean, we go there. We're there about an hour, and we get sent back to relocate to 111. So, well, 120 was the night time. Heaney and I forget
Is
what else.
Warren working?
I'm not sure. No, they sent us back because there was 120 quarter and 175 caught a really hairy fire in Bushwick, and there was metal. Guys made rescues. It's crazy. And there was another job on Hancock Street going. So the interchange company 159 went there. So they sent us back to
That's classic.
111. So we're about Eastern Parkway, and dispatch.
You 111 acting 111.
Well,
acting 159. Who's acting 111?
But we're not we're 159. So we're not 111. So the dispatcher, it might have been George, or it might have been Jimmy was Basil's the officer, and Conway's working, Doug Symes, and Dennis had the irons. I'm the cam man. And, Brooklyn Ladder 159. What's your location? So Jimmy says, we just crossed Eastern Parkway. All right, go in 830 box. First 830 Broadway, can hear your first two truck.
We're in Coney Island. Yeah, take it in.
Well, no, we were legit at Eastern Parkway, but there's so much work on. So we roll into this thing, and this place is going. It's a frame. So 214 ended up first due there. So I got the can. I run up with Dennis Conway, and I'm jacked up. And we don't have masks, And we get up to the 5th floor, and it's burned through the door a little bit. And I start hitting with a can. So I'm like, come on, Dennis, let's go. Come on, I'm ready to go. He goes, you want to go in there, kid? I go, yeah. He opens the door. Fire blows out of our heads. He shuts the door. You want to go in there? I go, no, I'll wait for you. But he knew what he was doing. But yeah, so as we're going to the fire, the job on Hancock, the handy-talkies, so we hear in Basil's handy-talkie, 37111. So Jimmy answers it.
Oh,
we're not 111. He goes, yeah, 111, you might want to help. There's a job around the corner, but Basil says, no, we're here already. It was just crazy that night. But I'll never forget Dennis opening that door on me. And they were all tough. Bobby Shape, they were all tough guys. Like I said, you went to work every day trying to be like them and knowing you never will be.
That's the best line ever.
Yeah, never. And as I said, guys got made out of there. Guys like Murph. I was very lucky to work with these guys. I really was. You learn a lot from them, and you pass it on. You know what I'm saying? Like the young guys.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, when you're a senior guy, they look up to you. And I used to tell them, show them stuff. I go, I didn't make this up. I just learned from the older guys that showed me. I'm not a genius here. This is what I was taught to do, and how to do this and how to do that. And I always, like they told me, and like I told my young guys, if you make a mistake, it's okay. It's going to happen. Just don't make the same mistake twice.
Mm-hmm.
And always remember that, you have guys that depend on you. Just do your job. And, that's how it is. The job, like you said, is 90% experience and 10% knowledge.
Yeah, we say a lot, like on the show, that, especially guys like yourself, you can make a mistake at, 8 o'clock in the morning, and by 9:30, you could be.
I've always said that. You're right, Louis. I said when I first got there, you could screw up at 1,800 hours, but then at 2,000 hours, 8 o'clock, you could do better because you had the next job. And 6 in the morning, you got even better because,
right.
Another story I can think of. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Bobby Graber, Jethro, or whatever. You know.
Yeah, Jethro, we hear a lot about him
Every
too.
time Jethro worked in the truck, we got our asses kicked. So actually, I was
Like one guy.
He was an engine guy.
always stayed in the engine.
Uh-huh.
But when he get detail work, go in the truck, and I worked with him. I wanted to go home. You know, I would tell the officer, I'm going home. I don't want to work when this kid's working. We're going to get killed. So I actually was at the promotion ceremony a couple of weeks ago, and I introduced the chief department, Esposito. What's his first name?
Yeah, that's cool.
Joe, right? So I went over to shake his hand. I said, "Hey, Chief, congratulations." And he goes, "You're BA, right?" I've never met this guy in my life. I go, "Well, yes, sir." And he says, "I remember you when I was in the battalion covering, and we had this fire, and it was so smoky, and nobody could see, and you directed rigging." And I said, "That was on Brooklyn Avenue." And he goes, "Yeah." And I'll never forget that fire. So we had a job on Brooklyn Avenue, and Bill Chesney was the irons guy, and Graber was the cameraman, and Dennis was driving, and I had the OV, and I had just started getting the OV, and we pull up. You can't see the building, cannot see the building. There's so much smoke. So, but I didn't know they had taught me like line up because I got to go in the windows, and I got to go in the top floor. You go in the top floor, you know, and I'm lining the windows up. So I get in the bucket, I take off. Can't see the building, can't see shit. I go up, bam, I hit the building. Oh, got it, back off. And I got to the window. So I take the window, clear it out. I go in, it's clear as a bell up there. Clear as a bell. I'm like, how tough is this? You know, right now, 111 OVM to 111. And Howie Vanetsky was the officer. And he's coughing his balls over here. Yeah, go ahead. I go, listen, I'm on the top floor. Primary is negative. There's no smoke up here. Conway gets on the radio. He goes, yeah, that's
You're in
great,
the
kid.
wrong building.
I'll get in the fire building.
I was going to say you're in the wrong building.
So I swing over, and now we go on the top floor. No mask, you know. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. So after the fire's out, go down the street, and Dennis, you know, comes over and he puts his arm around. He walks me away from. He goes, listen, kid, it's okay to fuck up. It is, but when you do, don't tell the fucking world that you did.
Don't put it over the handy talkie, all right?
Yeah, but yeah, you know, you learn a lot. I miss the job. You know, 17 years I'm out.
Did you ever think like what would have happened if you went to 102 instead?
I don't know. The area 102 changed. Oh,
yeah,
so
it changed a lot.
I finally found out how I ended up at 111. Years and years ago. I don't know if you remember Chief Duffy, Jim Duffy. He became the first chief of rescue services. He was Tom Brennan's captain, actually, 104. He was a legend in the job. And I worked with his son Billy in the fire patrol, and he knew me when I was a young guy and everything. So he's the guy I told you when I put my paper in, and he said, you know, what's this? And so I'm at his retirement part. He was retiring, and I went there with Jimmy Basil and Dennis Cross and all these guys, and Chief Duffy was there, and finally, you know, at the end of the night, I went over to him and I said, Chief, I got to ask you, how did I end up at 111? And he said, I put you there. I was the guy who put you there. I said, what? He said, because 102, as great a company is, the area was going to change. I said, in 111, it'll always be the same. And I found out he's the one who put me in 111. And he told me, you got to do 20 years there. So when I had 20 years, I called him at home. And then I got Mrs. Duffy on the phone. I said, can I speak to the chief? He gets on the phone. I go, well, Chief, I got 20 years now. Get me out of here. He goes, you got another 10 to do it. He hung the phone up, puppy. But yeah, that's how he put me there.
How are they doing now? Are they still working there? Or the neighborhood's changing there too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I saw it in the tail end of my time. I mean, it used to be the drug dealer walking down Lewis Avenue with a Rottweiler. And then you started singing like the couple from Wisconsin.
Yeah,
they love it.
They love it. I don't understand it. They love it.
Go up and say, "Are you people lost?" No, we live on Monroe Street.
Yeah.
You know? But and you know, Charlie Williams got arrested. So great guy. He had bought a lot of buildings down there. That was another unknown guy throughout the job. Charlie Williams great fireman. Fought in Vietnam.
Vietnam.
Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, I remember when Desert Storm happened. Charlie was in the reserves, stayed in the reserves, and they were sending guys over, and he got sent. He fought in Vietnam, and he got sent over there. He was a master sergeant in the Air Force, cargo master. So I'm driving to work one day, and Scott Shannon on WPLG is, telling people you can dedicate a song to him. So I get to the firehouse, and I go to the payphone, and I start dialing a number, and I get through. I couldn't believe it. And I get Scott Shannon, and you're on a delay. So I said, he goes, hey, what'd you like to do? I said, listen, I want to dedicate the next song to my buddy, Charlie Williams. He's a New York City fireman here in Bedford-Stuyvesant for the last 20 years. He fought in Vietnam, 67, 68. He's over in Iraq right now as a cargo master, and I want to dedicate a song. And Scott Shannon said, right on it wasn't, I'm sure they didn't hear it. He goes, holy shit. And I got everybody in the kitchen. It was up, we put it on, and they mentioned his name.
Nice.
But when Charlie passed away, he died from leukemia from 9/11. Great
He
fire.
was a lieutenant in 41 too, I think, right? Like
No, Charlie,
41?
no, he was a chauffeur 111. He was on the back a long time. He worked with Conway and Schaefer. They broke, and he went through a helmet in a year. He got on in 77.
Wow.
Tough fireman. His father, Willie Jackson, was a fireman at 111. So, but Charlie, class guy, just a great guy, a great fireman, a great teacher. They were all, the older guys were great teachers. The one thing I learned with certain guys, especially Tommy Craig, when he told you something, don't tell him, I know that. Hey, you do this. Oh, I know that. Never say that, because they'll never tell you again.
Mm-hmm. We've had a couple people say that.
Yeah, but just you learned a lot from these guys, and like you said, Louis, you got to practice it. You know what I'm saying? You got to put your knowledge.
You had to be
to work.
I mean, if you think about your time there, it had to be like the perfect time to be there, right?
Like I said, very lucky to work there and work with the guys I worked with. And let me tell you something. Guys come and go. You saw guys walk in the door there, like, and before you know it, they were gone. It was a tough kitchen too, or a tough backyard. You had a pretty thick skin. But overall, like I said, the senior men, Brennan was wrong. The senior men did talk to you, and they showed you the way, as long as you had an interest. And as I said to my probies, Chris Isaac, I'm working with Tommy Burke.
My God, we forgot about Norton too.
We forgot about Norton.
Tommy Burke was an amazing fireman. Tommy Burke and Kenny Ross were the two fastest roofmen I've ever seen in my life. I really think that Burke had a cape and flew, because he could get the roof open, do his thing, be down the rear fire escape, and pulling ceilings with the guys right away, And Tommy and I had lockers next to each other, but Tommy was always Tommy. And
he is crazy, man.
Well,
he's perfect for the nut house. I mean,
he's right in there.
You can write a book about him. I remember when you worked with Pampalone, I got put in the captain's groups. I'm not going to get into why. And Tommy and I worked together. And Tommy would always get in trouble. And the captain called him upstairs and ripped him in the ass. And then he would say something to me. I'm like, oh, you got Burke. And one day he told me, he said, "This is the difference between you and Burke, Pampalone. He's dead now." He says, Burke is like a knife wound. It's like him sticking a knife in me and the pain is temporary. He says, you are like a boil on my fucking collar and you just irritate me all the time. So Tommy would take me out the so one day we catch a job. Tommy's with me. We caught a job. We go down to Williamsburg by 108. And, Tommy and I were in the backyard drilling like we always do, And we get there and we're like third truck and really didn't have to do much. So we're hanging out and the aide comes over to me. He said, BA, the chief wants to talk to you. I'm like, oh, shit. So I learned about social distancing way before COVID. 6 feet. So it's George Iser. So I worked with him. You got to remember the three officers in 112. I mean 124. The 3 lieutenants, Pete Gansey, George Iser, and Jim Ellison. Their 3 sons went to 111.
Mm.
So I walk over and said, "Yeah, what's up, Chief?" And he goes, "Listen, BA." He goes, "My son's in Probie school." Oh, great. He goes, "He's getting out. I'm putting him on 11, and you're going to break him in." I said, "Okay, Chief. Anything else?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I turned to Tommy. I said, "Let's make like sheep and get the flock out of here." and the kid came there. He went to my group. His first day, he caught a really good job, and he did a great job. Somebody just sent a thing about to mention 2 people. One was Bob Daly.
And
Danny Perella. You talk about Danny. I knew Danny from Levittown. You talk about a man that has no fear. Danny Perella. I mean, absolutely no fear. When he would drive, I mean, great chauffeur. When we were coming back down by, I don't know if you remember, Louis, but you got to go to Lewis Avenue, you got to cut in under the L and then make he would go
Full speed.
Full speed. And you'd have the OB and you go, "Oh, with that uphill." You know, when we rode outside. Bob Daly, which I wanted to mention, another guy that outside of the area, nobody would know. Bob Daly was one of the best, toughest OV men I had ever seen in my life. Bob Daly started in 103.2, did 10 years in 103.2, 10 years in 176.
Wow.
And almost 10 years in 111. On the back step. Bubba called him.
Is he still around?
He passed away a couple of years ago.
My God.
I learned a lot with him. So I always tell the story. One night,
wow.
we were sitting there, and I'm like, "Hey, Buffalo." We used to call him Buffalo. I said, "Man, you know, what are you going to do, man? How much?" He was sitting to watch, you know. Great guy, big guy, strong. You know, what are you going to do, man? How much longer? BA, I'm never going to leave this job. Never. Well, we got a job on Bainbridge Street that night. Or Rita, I came, and it was horrible. A really tough job. I had the can. Roddy Richards had the irons, and Bubba had to go in the top. I remember we pulled up, and the stuff was coming out of the top floor window so bad. Not only did it have edges on it, I always said it had the word Anderson backwards in the smoke. That's how fucking bad it was. And he's on his way up in the bucket. We're forcing him to do it with no mask. And I'm telling you, I used to tell guys, it comes out even with the word Anderson backwards. And he went in that shit. So, and it was a screwed up fire. We had a tough time.
How the hell did the guys do that?
And after the fire was out, we go back to quarters. And he's sitting there in the kitchen, and he's coughing like, and he says, "BA, I'm done." And 2 weeks later, he put his paper in.
Really?
So, oh yeah. So it was his last tour was New Year's Eve. Can't remember what year it was. I was dating my wife at the time, my ex now, but I was dating my wife, and we had gone out for New Year's Eve. And I said, we weren't dating that long, and I said, "Listen, we have to go into my firehouse tonight. So you can come or not." She goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, a very good friend of mine was retiring, and I wanted to see him." So I went in to the firehouse, and she came to see Bubba and gave him a bottle of Bacardi Dark Rum, which he loved, and to, wish him lots of luck. And I loved him. And, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that sucks.
But another one of those guys, nobody outside of the borough, let's say, or outside of the division, didn't know his name.
Mention those places, Roof.
Do you imagine how many times tonight you've said incredible officer, tremendous fireman? Like how many if I had a nickel, right? Like how many times have you said that?
I'll tell you what. I mean, I was surrounded by great guys. Listen, 95% of the guys on this job do their job. 5%. I'm not going to get into, but 95% of the guys on this job, they give their heart and souls into it. They love the job. I used to say, there's a couple of things the city hates about firemen. Number one, it's the only job in the city where you can actually get paid to sleep. Not that
they hate that shit.
They do. The other thing is they they realize all the guys work their second job, you know. And the third thing is you're friends with your boss. You know, they don't like that. You know, the captain says, yeah, I'm having a barbecue at my house. Everybody shows up. They don't like that.
Murph didn't do that. Murph
They're like stops. They work in the PT, and they're like, their bosses suck, you know. So, but, yeah, I mean, to work with the guys I worked with, you know, it's just, do I owe my life? Did they keep me alive when I was young? Fucking hey.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they looked over you and they taught you the way. Yeah. And,
you know,
like I said, Eddie Steffens passing the other day was tough. Going to Captain Ruby's. I knew Steve.
Ruby was another one.
Steve when he was a kid in 222.
Well, Steve Garrity, too. I forgot about Garrity.
Steve, I broke Steve Garrity in 111. He went to my group's great guy, knew his shit. His brother Eddie was one of my best friends in 102. And that's why I wanted to go to 102, you know, work with Eddie. And when Steven came back as my captain, probably I've had good captains. I always said Steve Garrity was probably the next best captain I had since Tom Brennan.
Wow.
Steven, funny story with Steven. So his last night as a captain, he caught a job on Fulton Street, and which leads into other stuff. So he was getting made. He got made, but, you know, it takes effect, I guess, on the third, whatever. So he caught a job on Fulton Street. Good fire. I had the iron, so we do that thing. So because he grubs a cigarette off me, because he never paid for
smoked a lot. Yeah, he smoked.
So we're sitting there smoking. So I turn around, I look at my watch, and I go, well, Cap, at 0900 hours, you become an asshole. And who's standing right next to me, behind me? Dave Jakubowski. You know,
he was coming in right after him, right?
So him and I did not get along. I mean, which is ironic what happens. So I said, you become an asshole. So he said, what? I said, well, you're going to be a chief. Most chiefs are assholes. So Jakubowski turns around, he goes, hey, BA, are you calling me an asshole? I look him right in the eyes and go, well, you're a fucking chief, right? He goes, yeah. I said, well, you're a fucking asshole too. And I walk away. So
Garrity goes, somebody running this with him.
Garrity says to me, he goes, I can't believe I have 4 hours left and I'm going to have to hook you up. But the strange thing is, when I went to the division light duty, and believe me, I got hurt March 9th of 2007. I was at a job December 17th of 2007. Almost just under 9 months. How quick do you see guys get out that quick?
No, you don't.
So when I was on medical leave for 4 months, and I was pretty busted up. So I go late duty. And I never had to go downtown. So Danny Butler, division commander, I knew Danny a long time. He wanted me to come to the 15th division. They wanted a senior guy, you know, to drive. Right? It's a light duty job. So I went to 15th division.
Drive Cartwright.
What's that? Oh, Wayne Cartwright, great guy. It was Wayne Cartwright, Danny Butler, Dave Jakubowski, and Mike. His kid was in 111 for a while. Mike. It'll come to me. So I go to the 15th division. So Butler says, you're going to be driving Jakubowski. I said, Chief, him and I do not get along. What do you mean? He wants you to drive.
Pretty cool guy.
I says, well, I said, him and I don't get along. I said, I called him an asshole at a fire once. He goes, well, he wants you to drive him. Okay, whatever. So the first tour I work, comes in, working, you know, you work 24 hours there, and takes me to lunch. And we hit it off really well.
I swear, I tell you the truth, nobody would believe it because he was just so weird or tough at the job. He would break your balls up shit.
Louis, he was all an act.
He was an act, right? I know it.
And the way you got to him is go right back at him. One day I was in the office smoking, and you weren't allowed to smoke in the office. And he says to me, BA, what's our smoking policy up here? I said, the policy is, with my time in the job, I can do whatever the fuck I want. He had, listen, I went to the division with 24 hours of overtime. And he was in charge of the overtime, and he was strict with it. I walked out with 475, months later. Took great care of me.
Hit the brother up.
He did. They did. They were great chiefs over there.
They really were.
I'm going to tell you this one story about the division. I might get choked up here. So my last night I was working was the Thursday. It was a Thursday. I think it was around the 15th, whatever. So, and the guys in 283 were tremendous, great guys.
That's
Tommy
Connell's
Boyd,
a bad seed, right?
Tommy Boyd, who was the senior man. When I left, I got a note in my locker. It was a letter from Tommy Boyd saying how I helped the young guy. Just a great letter. I still have it somewhere. So anyway, my last tour, bring the meal in, steaks, lobster tails. Jacko's working. Wayne and Danny and Mike all come in from home. All three deputies come in from home for my last tour. And which to me was unbelievable. So cooking, doing the thing. And we're just about to eat. And voice alarm comes out. And it says engine 283 Division 1-5. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. You got to run here? And they say, stand by for department message. Then they come back, all units in the borough of Brooklyn, stand by for a department message. And they came on, and the CO congratulated me on my last tour in the FDNY.
Wow.
Congratulated and said, my career being a 111, and I had to acknowledge it. They said, acknowledge, and I was choked up when I got on the Islam. So that was it. So we had a meal. It was a good night. We caught a little job. I can probably mention this now because I'm out of the job. So caught a job with 234, a little shit thing. We processed it, taken up, and the captain of 234, I won't mention his name, but you know who it is. And he's out on the stoop. And I'm walking by, and I says, hey, Cap. And he goes, yeah, B.A. I go, it's amazing. All the years I've been down here, you're still on a fucking stoop. You don't go in the building. And we and you know what it is. And Jacko turns around, looks at me, he goes, are you out of your fucking mind? I go, Dave, I got 12 hours left. They can't get the charges in. So that was it. So so about 2 o'clock in the morning, we get a run down by Flatbush, 113, 157. And we're on our way in, and we're a couple blocks away, and we're anti-talkie rate. They can't find the fire. They're having a lot of problems. Running out of air, all this shit. Good companies, So on the way in, he says to me, listen, he would usually let the battalion run the fire, but he says, I'm at Joe Callan Jr., who I worked with his dad for many years. He was the chief, great guy, but, he was going to help Joe. He says, do what you got to do. All right. So we get there. I go out of the car. I get my helmet and clipboard. I go over it's a semi-attached private dwelling. Fire's on the first floor, but he can't find it. So I tell the aide, take care. I go to the rear. There's nobody in the rear. I'm in the rear with a clipboard and a helmet. And the window cracks. I hit it with my helmet. And so I'm going out. The deputy's coming to the rear. Dave, I go, Dave, they got it. Piece of cake. He goes, transmit a second. All right, so we transmit a second for relief. That's it. They put the fire out, did a great job. So I'm getting ready to we're going to take up. So I get on the radio, get my final, had second alarm box, 1-6, whatever. We're in the process, let rescue 2 go, blah, 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 this and that. And I said, also, Brooklyn, I just want you to be advised. I just want to tell the Brooklyn CO, this is on the department radio. I just want to thank the Brooklyn CO for that tremendous tribute you gave me on the voice alarm. I love this job. It's the greatest job in the world. I will miss it tremendously. And they say there's life after the FDNY, but mine will never be the same. Division 1-5 will be 10-8 and 4 will be the incident commander, and that was it. And that was the end of my career. And
a fabulous career it was, Mr. Austin.
I got a lot of calls about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you get to teach one more time.
Okay.
Right, Guns?
Yeah, I didn't mean
hold on a minute. We got to set you up, Guns. You know what time it is, Guns?
No, I don't. Yes, I do. Hold on 1 second. I got a little quote up here.
I hope I didn't. I hope I didn't.
No, you went way the hell too long. But who can? No, I'm just kidding. I am
really?
just
No, we're kidding.
I'm just playing
As
around.
Ray Strong used to say, BA knows a lot of shit, but you got to listen to him for another hour. Ray Strong's first day in 111,
Love
he
my
caught the
Ray
job in
Strong.
the Armory on Bedford and Atlantic. Really bad, tough fire. And we're going down the block, and I turn around and Ray and go, "Welcome to Bedford-Stuyvesant, big man."
Somebody was
Great
asking
fire.
if you work with him, so
One of
that
my
answers that
favorite
question.
guys.
Great
One
Strong.
of my favorite
Great
guys.
fireman.
Yeah.
Great
Okay.
fireman.
All right,
Well, it is that
Here we
time.
go. It's this
Okay.
time.
All right. It's time for the old school tip
Of
of
the
the
day.
day.
Okay.
Here you go, brother. Bring it right in.
I will. What I taught my probies was, remember, and I'll never forget Billy A. and God rest his soul, when I was 230, always said the whole job eventually will be mask oriented. So I used to tell my probies, God forbid, if your mask runs out of air and you're in a bad spot, crawl to the wall. Get your nose on the floor where the wall meets the floor. And there'll be air there for you to breathe. It will be great because smoke rolls. It doesn't go square. And you'll be able to get enough air to keep crawling to the next window and then take the fucking window. So that's my tip of the day.
Awesome.
Wow, I never heard that.
Awesome.
Nobody ever heard that because I made it up.
I have never heard that. There you go. A
Oh,
BA
yeah.
original.
Something I kind of taught myself, but I taught my probies that. And because, you hear guys dying with masks on. I mean, I think if it saves one guy's ass, it's worth
Yeah,
it.
hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to tell you, Mr. Austin, it was worth the wait. You are a fireman,
Yeah.
Good stuff,
no
kid.
doubt. Good stuff.
So we waited. I was involved in my career there for a while, and things are quiet now because I had the cancer and I'm doing better though. But Pat Leafs, like the floorboards, yeah. But gentlemen, it was a pleasure. I appreciate you putting him on the show. I think you guys are doing a great job. Louis, I do remember working with you many years ago. Kevin, unfortunately, I never got a chance to work with you, but if you were in that squad, and remember what a squad is, right? You know what a squad is, right?
Here it comes.
It's an engine with a fucking roof rope. That's what a squad is.
Well, thank you very much.
And the
I'll
reason
take
why
that
is,
as a compliment.
and I'll tell you quick, Vinny Ungaro, what happened when they were keeping a truck, he was supposed to get 176. He came to the firehouse one day, all pissed off. I said, call Murph. And Murph's going to be the captain 288, and that's how you got Vinny. Vinny Ungaro was a great fireman.
Great
good
officer.
guy,
Love
And he
it.
had great
Great
hair
fun.
too. Good hair.
Great hair.
Yeah, but the Duke used to blow smoke. All
Don't
right.
tangle with him, though. He's a good wrestler. He's a good
I'm
wrestler.
gonna let it go.
That's right. He was a good grappler
Yeah.
and a
You know,
photographer. He always
Yeah.
took pictures. That son of a
All
gun.
those guys, Hancock Street, I can get into Mark Gregory. Hancock Street.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
I know.
No,
it's
we
tough.
mentioned it before.
Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
That
All right,
firehouse.
stand by. We got to get through a couple of things, and then we'll get back to it.
All right,
Stand
hold
by.
on. Let me go first. I got a shout out.
Oh, you do?
I
Go
wanted
ahead.
I wanted to mention Deputy Chief, the Third Division Commander, Joe Carlson, Chief
Oh,
Carlson.
yeah. But Corrado's friend.
He had a stroke.
Ah.
Yeah,
Sorry to hear
so
that.
I think he's doing a little bit better, but he's fighting. He's got a lot of rehab ahead.
Well, I wish him the best.
Yeah, he was he came on the boat ride with us. He follows the show.
He loves
Great
the
guy.
show.
He loves the
that
show.
sucks.
Loves,
We'll say keep
Yeah,
it
I
up,
gotta
Chris.
watch the show more often. Now. I don't really.
Do it. I'm going to send it to you now.
Send some prayers
Do it.
towards Chief
Yeah.
Carlson, please.
For sure.
All right, Gons, we got 2 shout-outs, right? I believe
We have
2 or
3. We'll start with
Yes,
You wanna start
Bob
with this
Oakhorn from 159. The guy reaches out to me. He's working covering it in 227 tonight. So they're all watching it. It's Jeff Warner.
27.
He's 227 tonight. Remind you about retired firefighter Rob O'Corn from Tower Ladder 158. Where do you donate to? Where is this, guys? Can you?
There's going to be a QR code. They're going to have to scan the QR code. And,
I will put it in. We'll put it in the description, right? We can put the QR
Yeah.
code. It's tickets. It's to help. It's a fundraiser. He has pancreatic cancer, I believe, man.
Oh, Jesus.
So let's show some support here. 50-50 raffles and prizes.
When is that?
3232 Rural Avenue, Wanto, New York. On May 15th, 6:30 to 10:30.
Yeah.
So let's try to get out there and support.
See if I can pull it up after the show. And then we have line of duty death from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Let me pull his picture up. We'll say if you want us to do the bells at the end, because
Yeah, we'll do
Four
yes.
fives.
Yep.
all right, this is local 60 is announcing the line to do the esophageal cancer.
Oh, Jesus.
LT Kelly, Hoppy Hopkins is his name. He actually they know him as the battalion chief. Had passed away from Scranton FD.
No,
We'll
you
give-
have your friend, right?
Yeah, we have this is Scranton, and for those of us that haven't heard, I do have a short little video that I don't know if you want to do it after the bells. That
we'll do the bells last. You can throw it up. Go ahead.
It's only going to be about a minute when I show up, but for those that haven't heard, Captain Bill Guston from Miami-Dade Fire passed away on Sunday. There's a picture of the good old Cap, well known. He's kind of like our comparable to a Vinny Dunn of the FDNY, well known
Oh, Vinny
throughout.
Dunn. There's
Well,
oh.
he knows him, and when the video will explain a lot too. When I show you the little video, for those that don't know him, this guy's a wealth of knowledge, a lot of stuff, fire engineering, so on and so forth. But he's going to be missed. I do have permission from the Miami-Dade Fire Department to share this video because it is their video.
Go ahead.
So I'm just going to play about a minute of it. When you see who it is, this gentleman was on our show once before, who also had recently passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen to the kind words he says.
Before I begin, there's two things I want to comment on. A, I've never seen Bill so quiet. I've never seen him so closely shaved. On May of 1962, then General of the Army Douglas MacArthur said the following: duty, honor, country. These three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, and what you will be. It has been said that a vision is an acute sense of the possible. Today, we have an opportunity to honor a man who not only had an acute sense, a vision of what was possible, but became and shared that vision with literally hundreds of thousands of firefighters.
I'll leave it at that. That way, I mean, it's a little bit longer, but as you guys know, we had Bobby Holton on the show, Chief Holton on the show, big FDIC guy, and so this it's kind of unique that two legendary guys kind of commencing there not too long ago. And,
I used to tell young guys sometimes, they go, you know, it's the greatest job in the world. You're going to spend 20, 30, 40 years on this job.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect to make it to 90.
Yeah,
That's
right.
how it is.
No doubt. Guys, there was somebody else in the chat that was a line of duty.
The other thing I talk about too is when I got a job, we were firemen, not firefighters.
Yes.
Just seeing another great. Don't forget Eddie Stevens, which we mentioned at the beginning of the show.
Okay.
Patty Lee. That was actually.
Okay, we're gonna give the 5 bells now for all the brothers who died in the line of duty. Rest in peace, brothers.
Rest in peace, brothers. We got it from here.
Yeah, Don's last thing, Louis and I, we have to throw this up there again. The 53rd, Louis and I will be at Harrisburg for the 53rd Annual Fire Expo, hosted by Lancaster County Firemen's Association. Fire Expo will showcase more than 250 emergency service exhibits featuring the world's leading manufacturers of fire, emergency medical service, rescue, and public safety equipment. Plus, yours truly getting salty, Hawkinson t-shirts. You know how we do it. The Fire Expo not only has displays, exhibits, and live demonstrations, but also provides training from Cumberland Valley volunteers. Also provides, let's just skip to this. The Association, Penn State, Hershey Life, Line Critical Care, Transport, Middle Creek Search and Rescue, PA Officers, State Fire Command. Full training descriptions and details available at our website, www.lcfa.com/fire-expo, May 16th, 17th, 9 a.m. to 5, and then 9 a.m. to 4 at the Pennsylvania Farm Show and Complex. So come down and see me and Louie, 2300 North Cameron Street in Harrisburg, PA. Come on down and see us. We'll be there along with those other exhibits. And one last thing, Captain Dennis Murphy's son just got over to Squad 288.
I heard about that.
He already caught a couple of good jobs. So
Yeah, how did he get over there? How did he get over there so quick?
I have no idea how he got there. It's amazing.
You son of a bum, yeah.
If you know, Dennis doesn't get involved with that. The kid went over there on merit.
I like it.
He went over there on merit.
Yeah, on merit.
Well, I want to thank you again, Mr. Austin. It was worth the wait. You're a fireman's fireman. I love
I
it.
think so. I don't know, but
I think you're funny as hell too.
I always told people I just went to work and did my job. You know, the FDNY is not a job; it's a way of life. And
there's another T-shirt. This guy's
man. You better write that shit down.
We got a lot of T-shirt ideas here. I'm gonna go back.
It's been a real pleasure and privilege to finally get a hold of you guys and talk to you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. We'll see you.
Thank you for your time.
We'll see you on a boat ride now. We have a boat ride the week of August.
Oh, you'll love that, Bob.
You'll come. It's on the Harvey fireboat.
John J. Harvey.
Yeah, the John J. Harvey.
Refurbished, right? That's privately owned now, isn't it?
Yes, we know the owner. We're friends with the owner, and we go around the Statue of Liberty and around Manhattan, drink our faces off, eat our faces off. We have all the guests from the past year. Come on, so now you're in there.
You have my number now, Kev.
Second week of August, always second weekend. So I'll send it to you. I have your email. We'll send it. The invitations go out like in May, June.
Do I bring the spouse or the girlfriend?
Absolutely, you could take
whatever you prefer, brother.
We'll see if I'm still with her. You never know. No, she's
we got the cement shoes on the boat.
Yeah,
Louis, the fit chicken wire.
Louis, great seeing you again after all these years.
Same here,
I do remember working with you over there, and
that's all coming back to him.
I played in a hockey team for them. So Dick Lee Leeds, Russ Bankston, Joe Recupero, God rest his soul, Timmy Connell, all good guys over there. 103 was always 290 103. They used to get a little bad rap once in a while, but they're very, very good companies.
See?
Subjective. Subjective, see? All right, boys. So we'll see you next week. Bobby, stay. Don't click out. We're gonna sign off here.
Okay.
Roofy, Gons. You know what I say, man.
We're using 1-on-1 and the rest fast.
Stay low and go, baby.
3-2 multiple phone calls sounds like a job. How about that?
Yeah. Whoa, everybody! Thanks again, Bob.
All right, guys.
Gentlemen.
I was going to say roll heavy. No problem there, Bobby. But I was going to say rolling heavy, but we're going to roll a little light tonight in honor of Captain Bill Gustin. So,
absolutely.
God bless everyone, and have a great night.
You too, gentlemen. Thanks again.
Mm-hmm.